Well, hello and welcome to the Actual Tech Media Enterprise IT Virtual Summit. Today's topic is Supercharging IT. I want to start by saying just a giant thank you for joining us here for this important conversation. On the summit today, we've got some of the most innovative and leading companies in the industry. You'll be hearing from experts at Zerto, Couchbase, Rubric, Duo Security, Okta, OutSystems, and Nutanix. That is a supercharged list of innovative solutions, hot trends, and creative strategies. And we hope that you are all as pumped up as we are. Because as we know, IT teams can and do have a huge impact on an organization's growth, success, sustainability, and scalability. But it is easy to get bogged down in old or clunky tools, maybe a lack of resources or outdated systems. One of my old coworkers used to talk about the difference between being in it and being on it. We often find ourselves in it, really deep in the fray. But today we're going to pull our heads up and be on it. We're going to look out at all the cool options around us and get excited about what we can do. Now, in order for you to get the most out of your day today, I'm going to go over a few housekeeping things with you all. Now, if your eyes went right to that prize icon on the screen, I'm with you. It's exciting, but hang tight. I'm going to come back to those in just a moment. First, I want to draw your attention to the questions box in your webinar control panel. If you haven't already said hi, there is a huge audience out there today and so many of your industry colleagues and peers all gathered together for this summit. So reach out, give a wave to the other members of the Actual Tech Media community. We love seeing you all connect from around the world. Now that questions box is also a great place to reach out to the Actual Tech Media team. So if you are having any technical issues today, feel free to let us know there. I do want to remind you that a browser refresh is going to get rid of any of the usual tech gremlins, but if they're being a little persistent, no problem. Shoot us a message in that question box and we'll be there to help. But most importantly, we want the summit to be an informative experience for you, which means that we want to see those technical questions. So throughout today's summit, we hope you'll get engaged and make sure to ask all the questions you have about the solutions and strategies that we'll be exploring together. Now, we will have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of each presentation. If we do not get to your question during the webinar, don't worry, because the awesome humans from Zerto, Couchbase, Rubric, Duo Security, Okta, OutSystems, and Nutanix will be following up with you after we wrap. All right, now another thing I want to put in your console there is that Twitter button because, hey, we all know that good things should be shared. So today on the summit, when you hear something awesome or exciting, you get those little brain light up moments and you want to share it with your community, you can click right there on that Twitter button and the hashtag for today's summit will automatically be added to your post. Now, while you're exploring the console, we looked at the questions tab, we looked at the Twitter button. Now we're going to look at the Handouts tab. You're going to find some fantastic resources and takeaways from our speakers here today. We've got just an info pack collection of solution briefs, white papers, data sheets, free trials, ebooks, upcoming webinars, and more. So click around in that handout section, download some of those awesome resources and save those for later. Now, for those of you that I haven't met yet, my name is Jess Steinbach. I'm with Actual Tech Media. I'm so happy to be one of your moderators for this incredible summit today. My wonderful friends and fellow moderators, David Davis and Scott Becker, are going to be joining us just a little bit later on. But first, I told you that I would come back to those prizes, and here we are. If you thought our list of presenters was impressive, you better believe we have a grand prize list to match it. So let me walk you through, because today you could win one of 3 Lego Millennium Falcons, one of 3 Samsung S22 phones, one of 3 AirPod Max headphones, and one of 3 Nintendo Switches. And that is not even including the $300 Amazon gift certificates that we're going to be giving away every 30 minutes. Yes, I know. I told you today is going to be epic. Now, as a reminder, you must be in attendance during the live webinar to qualify for the prizes, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. If you are not sure what those are, no problem. You can head on over to that Handouts tab, click in, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll find the full T's and C's waiting for you there. Now, we're going to follow up with all the winners after the webinar, and there's the full T's and C's in the handout section. I put a few little reminders up on the screen here so you can see those. I do want to call out the fact that all grand prize winners are required to submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media there. Now, as I mentioned earlier, that questions section of your audience console is important. It's where we want to get your feedback. It's where we want to chat with you today, but it is also where we want to see your questions coming in. So throughout the webinar today, if you have that burning question, get it in that questions box. Now, not only is that going to spark awesome and engaging conversation, we will also be giving away a $50 Amazon gift card to the best question asked in each of our live sessions. So I'm going to remind you that we have a bunch of really cool sessions today, which means we have a bunch of really cool chances to win one of those $50 Amazon gift cards. So get those questions in, stretch it out, get ready to type them in as soon as we get rolling here. Now, if you are a winner on the summit today, you always have the option to donate the value of that prize to one of our selected charities. Thanks to generous prize winners on previous Actual Tech Media webinars, thousands of dollars have been donated to these wonderful charities. So if you are a lucky winner and you would like to get involved with one of the amazing organizations that you see up on the screen here, let us know, because we would absolutely love to help make that happen. Now, again, we're so happy to have you here with us live at the webinar today, and we want to keep that good feeling going. So let's connect, let's get social. So find Actual Tech Media on Facebook and Twitter. Also check us out on YouTube. We have so many cool on-demand webinars there, so go check them out. While you're exploring, you should check us out on LinkedIn. Make sure to connect with us there. And last but certainly not least, when it comes to exciting content, if you haven't already checked out the Actual Tech Media Guerrilla Guide Book Club, today is the day you're going to do it. I can feel it. Go and check it out today. The Guerrilla Guide Book Club is going to give you access to free enterprise IT books authored by top industry experts, so you get to stay up to date on all the trending enterprise technology from the comfort of your Kindle or mobile device. They'll work on all of the above, and again, completely free. You can download these awesome resources at guerrilla.guide, so make sure that you go check them out. There's a link in that Handouts tab, so you can get there easily through the Handouts tab as well. All right, last thing. I've said it before. I'm definitely going to say it again. You guys are all awesome, and we think you probably have some awesome friends too. We want to meet them. So another great way to win a prize is to refer an industry friend or coworker to the Actual Tech Media webinar series. So you're going to get a link to do that right in your Handouts tab, and you'll get automatically redirected at the end of the webinar. Now, I want to promise you that we are not going to spam any of your friends or coworkers that you might refer. We will send them an invitation to a list of upcoming webinars. If they don't respond, we send them one more little reminder, and then that's it. Both you and your coworker can then win a $300 Amazon gift card. We hold those drawings every month, so be sure to refer some friends and coworkers, because, hey, that's just win-win, folks. And that's it. We've covered a lot of really important things already today. Today is all about getting supercharged, and who better to do that than the one, the only, the absolute superest of supers, Ned in the cloud. So here for our keynote today, I'm so excited to introduce Ned Bellavance, Pluralsight author and MVP. Ned, we are geared up. We are ready to get rolling on this summit. So let's kick things off. The mic is all yours.
Hey everybody, this is Ned Bellavance, and today I wanted to talk to you about supercharging IT and your career. Working in IT ops can sometimes feel like a bit of a grind, but there's some things you can do that will benefit both you and your career. Here's my 4 tips for supercharging your career and your IT department at the same time. Number 1, know what your company actually does. Number 2, meet people outside your area of expertise. Number 3, do things in public. Number 4, learn fundamentals and focus on liminal spaces. Let's examine each of those in a little more detail. Now, the first one might seem obvious, but often the most obvious things actually need to be stated out loud. Know what your company does and how it makes money. Now, you might be down in the trenches pulling cable across a data center or deploying VPCs up in AWS. And you're wondering, well, what does all that matter? The simplest answer is that you need to align your projects and goals to what the company actually values. This helps to avoid the pitfall of IT seeming like a cost center. If you can point out how the refresh in the server hardware you proposed allows the company to process transactions 3 times faster and increased gross margins by 2 points in the last year, now that speaks volumes to the CFO and the CEO of your company. They definitely do not care about the latest Cascade Lake architecture, but they 100% care about a better bottom line. The next big idea is to meet people outside of your group or department. This serves several goals at the same time. Now, to start with, when you're trying to understand how the company actually gets things done versus what you find in the employee handbook, knowing the right people can help you learn that information and later on move mountains. Those people will also get to know you, and that can raise your public profile within the company. You're much more likely to secure a promotion or get a raise if folks are chatting you up to your manager. And most importantly, you're making connections with people, and that's just nice. It doesn't always have to be about building your career. Sometimes just getting to know some coworkers is its own reward, although there are some other rewards as well. Getting back to the point of people talking about you, my third big idea is to do things publicly. And by that, I mean, don't be afraid to toot your own horn or have someone else do it for you. Did you just finish an awesome project? Write a blog post about it or contribute to the company newsletter with an article highlighting all the awesome things that you did. Mention something epic your team just finished during a company function or an all-hands meeting. Find ways to make you and your department more visible in the company. In that same vein, try to be a champion for someone else in the organization. Now, that could be through a formal mentorship program or an informal acknowledgement that someone in your group is doing something worthy of recognition. Being a champion for others not only helps them, but it also kind of makes you look good without everything having to be about you. It's not just one big ego trip. Look at me, how awesome I am. You're making other people look good. The last point I'd make has more to do with learning than all the social networking of the previous points, but it still involves moving outside your comfort zone and interacting with other groups. I highly recommend learning the fundamentals of technology and processes that interface with whatever you're responsible for. Let's say you're in the storage group. Well, networking, compute, and databases all use storage pretty heavily. So I'd recommend getting a solid understanding of each of those domains and exploring the liminal space between each of those domains and storage. Once again, you don't have to limit yourself to strict technologies in the traditional sense. Why not just talk to the accounting group or marketing and find out how they use storage? What frustrates them about the storage that they're using today? What could be better? And you might not be able to say storage. You might have to say file share or database or something like that. But getting an idea for how they're using those systems and what could be done better, that's pretty valuable to the company. And in my experience, improvement almost always happens at the margins. And that's where you want to be. So just to quickly review my main 4 points again, know what your company actually does and how it makes money. Meet people outside of your area of expertise and even outside of IT strictly. Just go out and mingle a little bit. Do things in public and make sure people are noticing and be a champion for someone else. And finally, learn the fundamentals of adjacent technologies and focus on the liminal spaces between them. With these tips, you can supercharge your IT department and your career, and I'm sure there are many more tips out there. If you want to reach out to me with your best career advancement tips, I can be found at Ned1313 on Twitter or on LinkedIn. Thanks everyone, enjoy the event, and stay healthy and safe out there. Bye for now.
Oh man, Ned, thank you for that awesome keynote. What a great way to kick off the day. I really like the idea and the approach of supercharging ourselves, not just our tools. I think that's a really fun reminder. So speaking of which, we have a brand new poll question up on the screen for you right now. And what we're curious about is which areas in IT are you most interested in supercharging? And we've got a few examples, a few things listed up here that you're going to hear about today. But we're also kind of curious if there's something that we've missed, if there's something that you think that you want to supercharge that you don't see on that list. So take a minute, let us know, are you mostly interested in maybe Zero Trust, MFA? Are you thinking data protection, applications, maybe data storage? Are you thinking about yourself? Are you excited about everything? So let us know, where is your top area that you're most excited to supercharge today? And I'll give you a second more to fill that out. Okay, and then I'm going to switch to our next poll. We are also curious about your time frame. So you're going to hear a lot of really cool solutions, strategies, tools today. How long, what is your time frame for maybe taking action on some of the things that you're hearing? Or, hey, if you just got inspired by Ned and you're thinking you want to supercharge yourself, what's your timeline for taking action on that? Hopefully not 12 to 24 months, although sometimes it is a long process to get supercharged. But go ahead and let us know, what is your timeline for making changes in your organization and kind of getting things a little bit supercharged that we're hearing about today. I feel like I've said the word supercharged 15 times in the last minute and a half, so I promise I won't use it for every descriptor today. But speaking of supercharged, I am going to bring us along to our first presenter today because we are definitely starting out the virtual summit in style. We've got one of our favorite regulars here with us, so a lot of you will recognize this name. So our very first presenter here is Anthony Dutra, Technical Marketing Engineer at Zerto. Anthony, thank you so much for being here to get us started. Your presentations are always awesome, and I know that today will be no exception. So I am going to hand the mic right on over to you.
Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for coming to today's presentation on Cloud Native with Zerto. My name is Anthony Dutra, and I'm a technical marketing engineer with the organization. And really, for the next 20 minutes, we're going to go over by starting with what Zerto is at a very high level, just as a nice refresher for those that don't know. We're going to dive into what technologies that Zerto interoperates with in order to create that multi-cloud mobility, as well as ensuring that your data, really no matter where it lives, as well as your apps, are staying online and are constantly delivering value back to your business. So, as I mentioned before, let's kick it off with what exactly Zerto is. And if there's anything that you take away from this presentation, it is the fact that Zerto is continuous data protection pretty much anywhere that your applications live. And this is an enormous software solution and a huge benefit to not only an organization from an IT perspective, but for developers, those cloud-first sort of individuals who are sort of decoupled from the data center itself and are now operating in this new sort of containerized and cloud-based world. But what Zerto does is enable that continuous data protection across all these multiple different platforms, and does so for what we typically see these three main reasons as to why. The first is ransomware. A lot of applications today, both on-premise as well as hosted in public cloud, can be and are susceptible to ransomware attacks. This basically entails locking up your files or applications until you pay some sort of demand. With Zerto and this continuous data protection software, you're actually able to roll back to seconds before that attack actually happened. So you're keeping your business safe as well as the integrity of your applications away from this ever-growing problem of ransomware. And then disaster recovery itself, right? So what Zerto does is, through its continuous data protection, offer great replication, and you're able to move these applications at a point in time and at a state that is most valuable to the business at a secondary site. And all of this is orchestrated and automated behind the scenes. And there's a ton of analytics sort of built into this that shows those granular levels of RPOs and RTOs that this continuous data protection offers. And finally, the main thing that we're seeing a lot of is this need for multi-cloud mobility. I'm experimenting with, or I have a lot of resources that know this particular cloud vendor well, well, we heard about these new services in this other cloud. Can we be sustainable and online in that other cloud for a disaster recovery purpose? How do the apps look when they move between the two? Continuous data protection in Zerto itself helps answer a lot of these, and that's what we'll cover today. So this is all pretty much powered. Again, this is sort of diving into the details of how Zerto works and what continuous data protection actually is. The first part of it that I always like to say is this near synchronous replication. So Zerto is taking the application itself, right, the software only deployment, and we're not doing any snapshots or installing agents on the VMs or containers or pods that you're running in. We're doing this at the hypervisor or software layer, and we're able to replicate and keep your business and those applications always on and always protected by moving the just direct changes of these apps or what's going on within these apps through this near synchronous replication capability. And this really is done by our journal, right? So the journal is the main sort of proprietary thing that makes Zerto special. It's special sauce. And what it's doing is basically tracking changes within the applications itself, sending to whatever local site or a different site you have, replicating those different changes. And this allows us to go within that journal and roll back to seconds before a disaster hits, rather than, let's say, hours or days, and incur that data loss. Through that approach with CDP and our journal-based recovery, we can do seconds or minutes before that disaster struck and come back online to a point in time that is most valuable. Again, that application is now hosting something that is valuable back to your clients and your business. And we can do so in a app-centric sort of approach. So obviously an application today isn't just simply made of one giant virtual machine or a single pod hosting every single component. You have these different breakdowns and different IT components that make up an app. What Zerto does is basically group those logically together so they take advantage of that same exact point in time recovering as a single entity without needing to worry about all these other different intricate things. Really, from edge to cloud, Zerto is what enables this continuous data protection and availability no matter where your applications are living. You're able to recover in a matter of minutes, and again, you're doing so at scale, and this brings the benefit of the down to second recovery, right? So you're able to scale out your recovery quickly and jump back online as fast as possible. I've already talked about the application centricness. Again, apps composed of many different components. Zerto logically groups them and is able to bring them back online at a point in time that's best. And we're doing so, again, across all of these many different platforms. So on-premise today with private cloud deployments, in the cloud itself in between. And really, a lot of our MSPs are also leveraging Zerto to expand their customers into the public cloud or the sort of multi-cloud space that really this software is purposely built for. So Zerto is all about, and what this presentation is all about today, unlocking the cloud, mainly from, it originated, or a lot of this function started from an on-premise to a public cloud provider, right, coming back online from a disaster recovery and backup sort of point perspective, as well as migrations. But today we're really going to be focusing more around the actual cloud native, these two particular versions of Zerto or Zerto solutions focus on a disaster recovery that's happening within a particular cloud and then across or within Kubernetes services between different clouds. So extremely exciting. We're here to talk about the cloud native capabilities of Zerto in cloud for AWS as well as Zerto for Kubernetes. All right, so the first technology on this list, I guess you could say, is Zerto for Kubernetes, and the real big sort of higher level concept of data protection as code. So what Zerto for Kubernetes is a continuous data protection software built within, or actually designed with Kubernetes and for Kubernetes in mind. So it is built to take that same CDP principle that Zerto is traditionally known for protecting virtual machines with, and now doing it for your pods as well as persistent volumes running in public cloud services themselves. So a lot of developers today, if they are very familiar with um, creating and developing Kubernetes applications, are using services such as Azure's Kubernetes service, Amazon's EKS service. If they're on premise today, either Tanzu or Esmeralda. But at really the underpinning and everything that all of these services use together is Kubernetes. And since Zerto for Kubernetes protects Kubernetes itself, we're able to provide that same site local replication down to that granular recovery point in time, or do so across these many different platforms and bring an application back online in these newer environments, or what may be the app is not traditionally running on, and come online there and see how it performs. So even fairly recently, we released the ability to replicate between one to many of these multiple cloud points. So the benefit of that, obviously from a developer perspective, is just seeing how the app looks pretty much instantaneously at the other site, but coming back online and servicing your clients within these different cloud services is actually pretty powerful. So Zerto for Kubernetes is set up within a Kubernetes cluster. It is its own namespace. It's installed using Helm. So it's extremely lightweight and easy for a developer to integrate straight into their developing sort of workflows. And we allow for the recovery of an application that is containerized, straight down to the persistent volumes, the config maps, everything that is associated with that app can be instantaneously brought back online at a secondary site. So again, it doesn't really matter what the underlying Kubernetes service is, as long as it pretty much is Kubernetes, you're able to take advantage of this near synchronous replication. So it's all, again, this idea of data protection as code. When you deploy Zerto for Kubernetes, it's mainly through the CLI. And again, the reason why we like that is because it is just, again, part of the workflow for the developer. And they're using things like YAML files to create the configurations for this actual replication technology. So it's not being, calling up their infrastructure guy or having to jump into a new GUI, a storage GUI to manage this, the persistent volumes and stuff of their Kubernetes apps. They can all do so through the CLI. And we do the same exact functionality and integrate into the sort of dev lifecycle, GitOps, adding tools, automation tools like Jenkins can be all part of this sort of platform or this overall data protection strategy at the Kubernetes level. And again, it's just using more commands that are very much relatable and easy to quickly sort of shoot out in case you do want to test the failover, see how it looks running in Azure and in, let's say, Oracle's Kubernetes service. So there's a lot of flexibility through the CLI that this Zerto for Zerto for Kubernetes does offer overall. And then it's integrated right into the analytics of just any regular sort of Zerto dashboard. You can see it alongside the instances running in the cloud and replicating, on-prem to the cloud replicating. It's nice to have this sort of insight into how quickly we can come back online our containerized applications along with the rest of the IT infrastructure that I'm sure is pretty much running alongside. So this is a great tool for very much high-level people to look at, making sure SLAs are staying in line, how quickly RPOs and RTOs, very insightful analytics on this platform overall. So that was Zerto for Kubernetes. Now we're going to jump into the cloud side of things with Zerto in cloud for AWS. This is that very much same disaster recovery that is orchestrated and automated, but across many different AWS regions in order to ensure that high availability and resiliency of your EC2 instances. So it's that same simplified workflow of being able to fail over to a different site, but in this case, a region or a availability zone, very timely, be able to test it, use the same checkpointing feature that our journal does, but all native to the AWS platform and using their services. There's no underlying other technology behind it. So again, no agents built within our Zerto in cloud platform, and it allows this replication and basically business continuity of thousands of virtual machines across regions and zones. A lot of great benefits to Zerto in cloud for AWS. I think I've already addressed the main one overall, is the fact that you're doing this level of replication and orchestration of it across many different regions. And again, is very much tightly integrated with the AWS services. We recently just released with this an integration with CloudWatch. So if you're doing things already like monitoring your many different AWS accounts or just that specific account and the many different resources, you can create sort of events and generate a lot of different insights from CloudWatch in order to help maybe start a disaster recovery strategy that moves across the many different AWS regions in case something happens. So it's very much integratable and again native to AWS itself. It's simple to use. It is flexible within the AWS console to get up and running and going. And again, it can scale the replication of thousands of virtual machines across many different regions. The rest of the region is yours. There are some exceptions, we still believe up to this point, but pretty much if you're looking to move something from Frankfurt, EU Central 1, all the way to East Ohio, US East 2 in Ohio, you can do so with Zerto in cloud for AWS. It is extremely flexible software overall. A little quick peek of the architecture. Again, we're using everything native to AWS itself. A lot of this is pretty much serverless when it comes to these many different components because they're all running in Docker containers, and it integrates with AWS's APIs and, again, services. So at very high level, how the ongoing replication works is we're basically checkpointing these many different EBS snapshots. We replicate those snapshots to the other target region, and again are using sort of DynamoDB and Zik as a sort of tag team journal to track those many different checkpoints of those EBS snapshots. So we're again natively using AWS services and tools, and we're taking that same level of orchestration from a disaster recovery perspective and expanding it across this cloud. This is exactly how a failover workflow would work. So we just saw hey, I'm replicating to a different region. What does that look like? Okay, now something's went down in this region. What does coming back online look like? Well, Zik is going to initiate a live failover and make sure those EC2 instances are recreated from those EBS snapshots. Again, to that checkpoint that the administrator has decided to come back online to. It's going to mount those snapshots to those EC2 instances and then validate and commit that the application is back online. Again, all of this is orchestrated for the user and is pretty much very simple and, again, easy to use. So Zerto APIs, we have and exposed all of our many different solutions have APIs that you can integrate Terraform, Jenkins, automate a lot of these different processes through, and we're extremely integratable when it comes to, just I would say our docs are pretty good. That's what I'm trying to get to. We're extremely integratable when it comes to leveraging Swagger APIs that we have within these services in order to automate much of what is going on. And that sort of, and again, it's going back to incorporating that data protection into the developer's work stream or the solutions architect work stream in AWS. It's really bringing disaster recovery front of mind and using the tools that that sort of group may be most familiar with. So I always love to talk about getting your hands dirty and experiencing Zerto for yourself. You can just have access to any of these resources that you see on screen here are great. But I always talk about the hands-on labs. Go to zerto.com/labs. If you want to play with Zerto for Kubernetes, if you want to see a disaster recovery from on-premise to AWS or to Azure and do it yourself, sign up for these free hands-on labs. They're self-paced. and they're just absolutely great to do in order to understand the concepts at a much more deeper level. So I thank you all today for coming to this presentation, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Have a great day.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Anthony. What a great presentation and awesome way to kick off the summit today. And thanks for sticking around to answer some questions.
Of course, always happy to be here. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, well, before we jump in, I do have a poll question up on the screen for you here because we would love to know what additional information you would like to get about the Zerto solution. And I know we talk about this a lot, but depending on where you are in the journey, there's a lot of research to do with these solutions, and there's a lot of information out there. So this is a way that you can make your life really easy by just telling Zerto, here's the information I need. This is how I want you to follow up with me, and they will put it directly in your hands, so to speak. They'll send it right to you. So let Zerto know what information you would like to get, and they will make sure that you get some answers. So do take a second to fill out that poll, and while you're doing that, Anthony, should we jump into some questions here?
Yes, let's go.
Let's do it. Okay. I'm going to start with this one from Melissa here because she's wondering if the replication through Zerto will replace a double redundant backup system that they already have, or is it a good parallel and backup system?
No, definitely a good parallel in terms of a backup system. What I would suggest to you, Melissa, is maybe taking a look at the environment overall and pinpointing those applications that may be mission critical, where you would need that replication down to the second. Again, I know we talked about Kubernetes here, but if you are just looking to use Zerto traditionally, well, we talked about Kubernetes and AWS, but traditional Zerto allows, might be what you're looking for. But yeah, so down to the second, mission critical apps. If you already got nice backup strategy in place, keep that going. Both are important.
Perfect. Okay. Well, you've said down to the second and given us some really tight timelines that Zerto is clearly working quickly. But we did get a few questions about latency, so I want to make sure we address that. Ali is wondering how much latency it will add to communication if they're using Zerto.
No, so not very much at all. Again, what the main value behind Zerto is that the journal is sort of just tracking those delta changes between the application, like the pods within the Kubernetes sense itself. We're not, again, taking snapshots or freezing data and shipping over these multiple copies of it. It's very low overhead that is being sent through the wire to make that replication occur.
Okay. Well, actually, that plays in really nicely to another question that I wanted to get to, which is, a lot of people are kind of weighing out different solutions out there. So for Zerto, what do you think is your the big thing that makes Zerto stand out?
Absolutely. Continuous data protection is the story throughout. The ability, again, to roll back and replicate at such a granular fashion and to many different, within many different technologies is just the power of the software expanding across these multiple different platforms. So CDP is what we are all about. And I think it, comes through within those, seconds RPO, RTOs that we show.
Perfect. Okay, we also got a few questions about cost, and I'm wondering specifically if you could tell us how Zerto for Kubernetes is actually licensed.
Yeah, absolutely. So currently it is licensed 8 vCPU per license. So you can have everything within those licenses that we've seen that I've talked about. So basically replication between those supported cloud platforms, on-prem, as well as the LTR functionality to Azure and AWS. So 8 vCPU, and you reach out to your account exec and they'll get you licenses in that domain.
Okay, awesome. Another question here from Alan. Does Zerto replicate the full snaps across region, or does it try to minimize the bandwidth used by transporting Delta only?
Yes, that's he answered it himself. The second one there, Delta only. Again, the journal is just tracking those different changes. We're only sending those unique ones to both Zerto sites that it is compressed to. So, you're being as efficient as possible, making sure you're replicating.
Yeah, perfect. Well, speaking of being efficient, Anthony, I wish we could keep going here because we have a lot of questions coming in for you, but I am going to have to wrap it up there. Before you run away, though, if somebody is really ready to get started with Zerto, they want to jump right in, what do you recommend as their first step?
Again, always strikes my heart, the Zerto Labs, so zerto.com/labs. You can get hands-on after signing up with pretty much all of our Zerto products. I would always suggest going to sign up there first if you're looking to get quick and dirty, get your hands dirty.
I love that. There is no better way to get to know a solution than to get dirty in the sandbox, so that's great. Well, thank you so much, Anthony. As always, it is an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Yes, thank you guys as well. It's always a pleasure to be here.
All right, and if you are amped up and ready to learn more about Zerto, I'm going to send you on over to the Handouts section of your webinar console. Be sure to get the Zerto data sheet, Zerto for Amazon Web Services or AWS, Unleash Data Protection and Mobility on AWS with Zerto. It is a really interesting review of some of the info that we just went through, so be sure to download that, save that, you can share and read later. And while you are downloading that, I am going to move us along here because it is time for our very first prize giveaway. We have a few prizes in this giveaway. Now, real quick, because I realized I forgot to say it, if we didn't get to your question today in our chat with Anthony, don't worry, because we will make sure that all your questions go to the Zerto team, so they will follow up with you. So I see that there's a lot of questions here we didn't get to. Don't worry about that. We will make sure that you get those answers. And now, coming into our prizes, I do want to remind you that you do need to be here live at the summit today in order to win one of these cool prizes. And we're going to start out with a $300 Amazon gift certificate, and that is going to Terry Cohen of Texas. Terry Cohen of Texas. You have won a $300 Amazon gift card. And then we've got a grand prize, our very first grand prize giveaway. So we have 3 Apple Max headphones that we'll be giving away to 3 lucky winners. So first one here, Bronson Gherkin of Nebraska, Vinod Kumar of North Carolina, and Todd Harrison of Wisconsin. So a lot of Wisconsinites out there today, so there you go. Bronson Gherkin of Nebraska, Vinod Kumar of North Carolina, and Todd Harrison of Wisconsin. You have each won an AirPod Max headphone to enjoy future webinars on. So congratulations. We will be in touch with all of your winners about claiming the prize after we wrap today. And don't forget that there's still lots more chances to win, plus that best question card that comes up from each session. Even if we don't get to your question live, there is still a chance to win that. But for now, we're going to keep rolling here because we have another incredible presentation in the wings. I am so excited to introduce our next expert speaker on today's virtual summit, Mark Gamble, Product and Solutions Marketing Director at Couchbase. Mark, thank you so much for being here with us today. I can't wait to hear from you all about what's up, what's new at Couchbase. So the platform is all yours.
Awesome. Thanks so much, and happy to keep the train rolling here. We really appreciate this opportunity to present today on edge computing. It's going to be my topic, and I represent Couchbase. It's a distributed multi-model JSON document database. So I'll be covering what edge computing is, of course, from the perspective of the database, and it's, really that's a critical enabler of this emerging architectural strategy. As long as you use the right one, right? Well, a database built for edge computing. So I only have a little time and a lot of material. I'm going to just go ahead and dive right in. So first, what are our customers coming to us with? Well, they've been coming to us with business problems that they want to solve. There are more users online than ever. They're demanding faster, more personalized service. Our customers also, in response to that, they want to modernize their application to scale and meet the demands, but they don't want their development teams, wasting time learning new languages and technology. They need to accelerate development. And they also need the flexibility to deploy easily wherever necessary to meet application requirements, to enable on-the-spot processing, if you will. And that means, running on-prem, public cloud, private cloud, fully managed, self-managed, on-device. All of these are part of the edge ecosystem. And more importantly, they need to process data ubiquitously across all of the above. So the reason that we're seeing these requirements is because our customers are responding to the expansion of users and devices that they need to serve. Everything went online and went remote. And as a result, mobile clinics started popping up. Restaurants went curbside and digital. Retail stores went just walk out. Utilities and manufacturing have historically needed to handle a deluge of data from thousands of sensors and IoT devices, more now than ever before. And technology like 5G, GPS, and NFC and cameras, push notification, all these things that are we carry around in our mobile devices every day are key enablers of these use cases. But wires break, signals get blocked, and power can fail at any time. And these simple facts cause huge challenges for modern applications. Why? Because users expect magic. They expect your apps to defy physics and work at lightning speed all the time. And they're constantly moving around in and out of network coverage, and that makes their expectations even more difficult to meet. So how can an app deliver always fast, always on experiences under these conditions? Well, that's where edge computing comes in. That's the answer. So edge computing, brings data and compute closer to the point of interaction, including onto the device itself. And that speeds up performance and insulates apps from internet issues and slowness. So the promise of edge computing is on increasing guarantees of speed, reliability, and privacy for applications. So, but why is it that a cloud-only model can be a bit risky? So let's actually examine a real-world use case with one of our customers. So PepsiCo, they wanted to modernize their order-to-cash application. It's a critical business application for them. But it's based on a legacy system with dependencies on 3G networks and a rigid, unmalleable relational database. So the app essentially was one that their field reps and product delivery staff could use to keep shelves, stocked and payment status current. But when they would go into routes with poor network coverage, the app, would just go belly up. They'd have to, turn back to paper in those areas with all the delays and errors that paper processes can introduce. So why is it that, PepsiCo, Frito-Lay ran into this showstopper for their app? Because it relied on the cloud for its data. So let's look at, and I'll build this out, these architectures, conceptual architectures. These are simplified look at them, but let's look at the difference between a cloud-only data processing architecture. This is where the device clients only get their data from the cloud, as compared to mobile or edge computing architectures, where we introduce on-device databases and near proximity edge nodes. So the green lines indicate data synchronization. And let's start virtually snipping wires and see what happens to applications in each scenario. So when all tiers of each architecture are running, of course, all apps are going to work fine. But if the internet slows down or the cloud suffers an outage, apps that rely solely on the cloud for data will also slow down. And if we were to, snip the virtual wires and physical wires to the internet altogether, apps that use the cloud will stop working altogether. But the clients that use an edge node or an on-device database continue to operate without issue. And similarly, if edge nodes slow or go down, apps with an embedded database will continue to remain available and sync data between devices 100% of the time. So the Couchbase distributed database supports the edge computing architecture from the cloud to the edge to the device with full automatic synchronization built in. So that means you don't have to build sync into your apps yourself. And this architecture is how our customers use Couchbase on the spot, where the data happens. And that guarantees data integrity, high speed, and 100% uptime for their applications. So as we look at the architecture, the database icons, of course, are the red icons here. And that's indicative of Couchbase running on the cloud as well as in edge nodes. And then, Couchbase Lite is the small database icon that we see here running within the devices. And the green lines, again, are synchronization that goes between the cloud to the edge to the device. And this is, again, sort of the model that helps you build in partition tolerance and maintain, consistency and eventual consistency. You can partition off any layer of this architecture and have it insulated. It'll still run, irregardless of the network connectivity of any of the upstream layers above it. So a really solid architecture that will help guarantee, again, uptime and speed for your applications. So as we circle back to the PepsiCo Frito-Lay use case, Couchbase was able to deliver on all of their requirements because of these capabilities. So PepsiCo Frito-Lay adopted Couchbase to modernize their application, embedding Couchbase Lite to their OTC app clients. And this allowed them to work everywhere without concern for the internet. The local database covers the reps and delivery staff while they're in the field, and it automatically syncs that captured data to Couchbase running in the cloud when connectivity allows. But it happens behind the scenes. The reps don't even know it's happening. It's completely automatic, and that's really the way it should be. So they don't have to be proactively syncing and worry about when they're on a network. It just keeps operating, and they keep on being able to complete their critical business. So the embedded database here was, of course, one big selling point for PepsiCo Frito-Lay, but for that always-on aspect that it brings to the table. But sync was really the biggest value that we were able to give them, because it's really complex to build yourself, and we provide it as an off-the-shelf feature. In fact, PepsiCo is so proud of this application, they actually presented at last year's Couchbase Connect conference for developers. And, Madhav Makela was the presenter from PepsiCo, and he really said it best, that this off-the-shelf synchronization allows his development teams to focus on business logic and not worry about the database and the synchronization. So now let's get to this notion of application speed. Where does speed matter? Well, arguably everywhere, right? We all want fast apps, but let's zero in to a specific use case here, and that will be online multiplayer gaming. So if you're a gamer, we've kind of all been there. You're playing a game on your phone, and you walk into a subway station or into a tunnel, get on an airplane, etc. And your gameplay starts to slow down and freeze up or hang as network connectivity becomes more and more tenuous. And the next thing you know, your avatar is defeated and the other players have won. Well, this is again because of wires and signals. In this case, the distance that data has to travel across them. So why is processing data at the edge faster? Because the data is processed closer to the gamers. It doesn't have to go to a distant cloud data center to be processed. Reduce the distance that data has to travel, and your apps will go faster. So we go from triple-digit millisecond latency to single-digit. And it might not seem like much, but it makes a huge difference, especially in gameplay. But in other business contexts, it can also make a difference, especially in aggregate. Imagine if you could get back, tens of thousands of milliseconds. At the end of the day, that's a lot of business uptime that you're actually otherwise losing to latency. And the concept here is, think about it as if you needed cash, and there was an ATM across the street and an ATM across the state. Which one could you get cash from faster? Of course, the closest one. So CDNs and media streaming companies have really been doing it this way to speed up their user experience with great effectiveness for quite some time. But now the concept with edge computing architectures applies to all applications. And we proved it. We saw an over 80% reduction in latency when comparing an app running on AWS Wavelength. And this is an edge service from AWS, which puts the data center onto the local 5G network. And we compared that with the latency versus a standard AWS region. So, 67% decrease in latency for reads, 82% decrease in latency for writes. Just astounding results. And then another way to look at this is, based on operations per second, you can get from 3 to 5 times more business done in the same period of time with Couchbase running at the edge. And when you embed Couchbase Lite, the embeddable version of Couchbase, directly to apps running on the edge device, This is where you achieve the highest guarantees of speed, sub-millisecond response times. Real-time responsiveness guaranteed because the data is already there. So back to the if you needed cash analogy, this is as if you needed cash and it was already in your wallet. So real-time responsiveness guaranteed by embedding that data processing. So now let's take a look at the importance of uptime. So where's uptime important? Of course, obviously, also everywhere, arguably, but let's look at that through the lens of one of our customers, Backpack EMR. So they provide software for mobile clinics in remote and underserved areas around the world, like rural villages in Haiti, for example, where there is little or no internet. And they needed to do more than capture patient data on a device, sort of a standalone model. They need to do more than that. They needed to actually enable a mobile clinic, a hospital in the field. They needed to share patient data across the clinic, from registration to vitals to labs to exam rooms, even to pharmacy for post-care kind of checkups. And they also need that data to be available for ongoing care. But they need all this where the internet was non-existent. So essentially, in short, they needed a database that could power their apps offline first and sync data between devices into the cloud, and Couchbase delivered. So when Couchbase runs across an edge architecture, as we saw earlier, it can automatically synchronize across the entirety of the topology, and even between embedded devices that aren't on the internet. And this is using our peer-to-peer sync feature. That's a feature unique to Couchbase. So Couchbase Sync is sophisticated. It's bidirectional. It has built-in customizable conflict resolution. And, the sync is wildly complex functionality to build, and we provide it as an automatic feature. So this distributed architecture, as again to sort of revisit this concept, with the sync and embedded devices, allows edge apps like those from Backpack EMR to run and collaborate in isolation, completely unaffected by those disruptions in connectivity. So this is how Backpack EMR keeps their field clinics running without any internet connections. So of course, all of these benefits are kind of moot if it's hard to work with and hard to build. So let's now focus a bit on the importance of making developers as productive as possible. So with Couchbase, developers can embed data processing directly into their applications, again, utilizing Couchbase Lite. And when they work with Couchbase Lite, it works on virtually every possible platform, and that's native, web, hybrid, cross-platform. You can embed Couchbase database directly into your apps regardless. We got a broad SDK and strong APIs for being able to integrate this data processing directly into any application and on any device. And the other big strength here is that users can use or developers can leverage plain SQL or SQL. And in this case, they can leverage familiar paradigms. They don't have to learn new query languages, even though they're working with a JSON database. So, these applications can run, again, on nearly any edge or IoT device, not just smartphones. So we're talking things like surgical instruments and agriculture drones, real use cases for us. And it allows developers to use, again, nearly any platform. And the ability to put Couchbase in the cloud, at the edge, and in the device means that you have a consistent architecture of the same data infrastructure across the entirety of this architecture. So that means you can standardize, use the same query language, the same database, the same replication mechanisms. So Couchbase really, brings the power of the full-blown Couchbase Capella server in the cloud, but it brings it literally to the palm of your hand, putting it into these devices. And it adds an already tremendous value by allowing you to run data on the spot, where it actually happens. So Arthrex is a great example of innovating far beyond mobile devices. They provide interconnected surgical devices for bone and ligament surgery and reconstruction. And they also provide a suite of applications that connect to the devices and other systems for integration. And their devices run a Linux-based app with Couchbase Lite embedded to store patient data, as well as surgical data and even media metadata from captured images and videos. So the data is then securely synchronized with hospital EHR systems, the electronic health record systems, as well as to the cloud for the Arthrex Surgeon Vault application. And this allows surgeons to really quickly create post-operative reports for the patient's ongoing care. So Arthrex leveraged Couchbase because it allowed them to standardize on a single developer-friendly database, from their devices to hospital data centers to the cloud. They get all the benefits of Couchbase along with the benefits of edge computing, and leverage a modern database to innovate and future-proof their business. So I think it's a really illustrative example of how Couchbase is able to facilitate this architecture and also power these always-on, offline-first applications. So hopefully these examples that I've been able to go through really kind of help bring to light the types of apps that you're able to build and requirements that you're able to fulfill, just like our customers. And they run the gamut of different use cases. So, gaming, medical, financial services, utilities, energy, you name it. Couchbase is able to provide these same sorts of capabilities to run always-on apps, regardless of the focus, industry, or vertical. Just about every vertical and industry has the need for and requirements for an always-on application. So kind of circling back to some of these themes, Couchbase fulfills that promise of edge computing by bringing data and compute closer to the point of interaction, including onto the device itself. And that increases speed and resilience for our customers' applications. Around speed, and you are able to bring the data closer to the applications and where that data happens, of course, applications are going to speed up as a result, and you can increase those guarantees of being able to provide that. And by, as well, putting compute and data storage and processing directly onto the device, you increase those guarantees of reliability and uptime. And of course, these are huge factors, both speed and reliability, in user adoption. So, recent studies show that adoption or abandonment for applications can be as high as 1 in every 2 apps are abandoned within 30 days. And other studies show that app abandonment up to 80% is an average, and in fact should be expected for all but the most popular of applications. So reliability and speed are really key factors here, and we can't emphasize the importance enough. And then around privacy and security, this is where, of course, the ability to isolate data, keep it at the edge. You don't have to put private or sensitive data ever bring it out of the edge and put it up into the cloud. So having this distributed topology is a way to ensure privacy. This is, in fact, back to the Arthrex example. They're able to, adhere to regulations for data privacy by making sure that sensitive data stays within, the on-premises hospital, for example. And only the anonymized data is what goes out to the cloud. And it all happens, again, automatically, thanks to Couchbase. So as I wrap up, we want to make sure that everyone out there takes advantage of the ability to test drive these capabilities for yourself. So you developers out there, try Couchbase Capella. This is our database as a service that includes not only data storage and processing, but app services. These are back-end services that allow you to securely synchronize data between the Capella database as a service and apps that are running Couchbase Lite. And again, zero risk. Just go to cloud.couchbase.com/sign-up, and you'll be able to spin up your very first instance literally in under 5 minutes. And there's tons and tons of tutorials, great documentation to help you, build out your first Hello World examples. So encourage everybody to take advantage of this fantastic free trial. So with that, I'd like to, again, thanks for the opportunity to speak today. Hopefully the audience found it beneficial and even learned something. And visit us at couchbase.com, of course, to learn more on any of the topic that we talked about today.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. I definitely think we all learned something. We got a lot of questions coming in, lots of high fives from the audience. I'm going to very quickly, before we jump into some questions, I have put that poll question up for you all again. And what we want to know one more time, what would you like, what additional information would you like about the Couchbase solution? So I saw a lot of questions coming in. I know you all want more information. So let Couchbase know what they can send you to help you follow up with from the presentation today, to help you explore this a little further. So take a second right now and click on that poll. And while you're doing that, Mark, we're a little short on time, but I'm going to try to squeeze in at least one question here.
Okay.
So jumping right into that, we got actually a few questions about syncing and some concerns about, what if there's latency on syncing, or what happens if a mismatch of critical data through maybe multiple simultaneous actions trying to sync. So I'm just wondering if you can address sync conflicts in general and how that might affect people.
Sure, yeah, common question. So within app services I talked about, this is the back-end service that handles replication and synchronization for mobile and edge apps. And the replication protocol for app services features, automatic conflict resolution, and this is based on rules, and it's built to resolve conflicting document changes. And it delivers this by applying one of its built-in conflict resolver policies, which can be easily included in any developer's own replications. And the goal of automatic conflict resolution is really to return a winning revision based on the consistent application of the configured conflict resolver policy. So it's not one way that we dictate. It's really a lot of different ways, and we even allow you to customize it based on your own application requirements. So unlike other mobile database solutions, these rules, again, are customizable and flexible to meet those requirements. And this is how Couchbase is able to maintain complete data integrity, from cloud to edge to device. And we're super proud of our really robust enterprise class and super strong synchronization capabilities.
Awesome. I love that. Well, you kind of already answered this for us on your slide, but if somebody out there has fallen totally in love with Couchbase, is ready to jump in and get started, or wants to learn more, what do they do? What is their first step, Mark?
Sure. Well, of course, visit couchbase.com so you can learn all about the product line at large. But, I really even would say cut to the chase and get your hands on it. So sign up for our free trial. I'm pretty sure it's part of our handouts, but it's also real easy to remember, cloud.couchbase.com/sign-up. And you can be running your own Couchbase Capella database as a service instances in just about 5 minutes time.
Awesome. Love that. Okay. Well, thank you so much again for being here with us, Mark, and thanks for sticking around to answer some questions from our audience. I know there was a lot we didn't get to, so we'll make sure that those get to your team so that you guys can follow up with everyone. And it's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Likewise. Thanks so much, and thanks for having me.
And if you are looking to learn a little bit more about Couchbase right away, I'm going to remind you to head on over to that Handouts tab. Take a second right now and explore the Couchbase link. Make sure you do click on that. And, get started. Check out Couchbase Mobile. Definitely worth exploring, so be sure to click in there and check that out right now. And while you're doing that, I am going to move us along because, oh, would you look at that? It is already time for another prize giveaway. So we have a $300 Amazon gift card waiting for a lucky winner who's here at the summit live with us today. Our next winner of a $300 Amazon gift card is Scott Holbrook of Michigan. Scott Holbrook of Michigan, you have won a $300 Amazon gift card. Congratulations. As always, we will be in touch about claiming your prize after the event today. And don't forget, there's still lots more chances to win a prize, plus that best question gift card from each session. And even if we don't get to your question live in the webinar, don't worry, you are still entered to win that best question asked. But for now, I'm going to keep zipping right along here because we have another exciting expert presenter with us here. So Nick Helamani is here. He's the solution engineer at Rubric. Nick, thank you so much for being with us on the summit. I know you've got some really exciting content to cover, a really cool demo lined up. So I'm going to hand the mic on over to you.
Hey, thanks, Jess. Much appreciated. Hi, everyone. As Jess said, Nick Helamani. I'm a solutions engineer over here at Rubric. And we did bring a live demo for you guys today, which is the best way to demonstrate exactly how you can supercharge IT. For those who don't know, Rubric is a data protection and data security company. But the cool thing is that we're a cloud and data center agnostic solution. So it's one system to use, regardless of what you may be protecting in the cloud or in your data center. And so without further ado, let's launch into the demo so you can see exactly how this works.
Here's a demo of Rubric Security Cloud. And the great thing about RSC, as we call it, is that it's kind of more than just a marketing tagline. This is true global management for all of your data protection and data security workloads, no matter where they are, which data center, or which cloud. And the cool thing is that we go deeper than just managing the workloads. In fact, all the settings are here too. So this is truly one interface where you can spend all of your time managing these workloads wherever you have Rubric deployed. Obviously, as a company, Rubric does a few things. The first is data resilience, which of course is embodied by our data protection toolset. And by the way, to this day, we still have had 0 clients have to pay a ransom because their data on Rubric was unrecoverable after a cyber attack. Secondly, we also do data observability. So obviously our ransomware investigation tool and data classification suite play into that. And then thirdly, what we specialize in is data recovery, which while that's built into all of these tools, we also have an orchestrated application recovery suite that allows us to do test failovers, move between data centers as needed, but also do in-place recoveries from cyber attacks. I'm going to spend the bulk of the time in data protection. Obviously, because data protection is kind of a beast, it's got its own mini dashboard. And like I said, I wasn't kidding. This is one place where you can manage all of your data center, SaaS application, and cloud data protection all in one place. Obviously, on the right, we have some details about capacity and system health as applicable if you have physical hardware deployed, of course. And then at the bottom, we have kind of your typical task log as well as compliance status. And what this basically means is that we've got automation baked into every layer of what Rubric is doing. If we have a backup fail, we're not going to alert you and spam you with 1,000 failure alerts because we're going to retry automatically. And only if the system is still failing to be protected, maybe the host is down or maybe Azure has an outage, something of that nature, that is when you will get a compliance alert, basically saying, hey, this workload is out of compliance with the backup policy that you have set. So say goodbye to a 1,000 item long failure log in the morning in your inbox, and now you can just focus on what actually matters. And by the way, this is a real environment. We have real code, we have real systems deployed in here. This is not just some kind of fancy pre-canned demo. I could actually go in and click into all these different clusters where we have physical data centers deployed, but Rubric thinks that in 2022, you shouldn't have to manage that. And so we actually just put all of your applications, which is what you really care about, in one spot. Obviously, I can filter by data center, cloud, and SaaS workloads. And then naturally, you will only have a tile for what you personally deploy in your environment. Obviously, we have a lot of different things to show because we have a lot of different folks who are doing all kinds of different things to run their businesses. I'm just going to click onto vSphere as an example, but the same interface applies for all workloads. Everything is going to be organized with name, location, and of course, details around the cluster as applicable, whether this is on-prem or in the cloud. And then we also have SLA domain. Think of this as an automated backup and protection policy. I'll talk about this in detail in a minute, but the thing to call out is that Rubric will actually auto-discover new workloads in the background and automatically apply protection if you don't. So in this situation, these things were directly told to be protected under this policy, or in this case, not protected at all. But if you created something and Rubric noticed and then you didn't sign in to protect it, we would derive protection from the cluster level or something of that nature, such that you never go 6 months and then realize that you didn't have a backup. Obviously, you can filter by cluster or folders, tags, things of that nature, and you can even just search. So depending on how many virtual machines or SQL databases or whatever, you will be able to find what you need without having to go hunt and peck in every data center and then find the IP addresses and passwords for those systems, yada yada. Just clicking on a representative VM example, I wasn't kidding, everything we do in Rubric is going to be the same interface. So this demo is going to get somewhat repetitive in a good way, of course. On the left, we've got some details on object that's being protected, capacity, where is it, what protection policy is being applied to it, things of that nature. And then on the right, everything we do is through the Rubric calendar view. So obviously we have a nice little green checkbox for every day we have a successful backup. But what's really cool about Rubric is that even if you archive the data off to the cloud or to replicate to another site, these backups are all still visible in this interface. So if I had actually archived the first of the month to the cloud, you can still browse that snapshot and do restores without having to go hunt and peck in some other archival interface or even replication site interface. Super time saver right there. Even cooler than that is that we actually have the ability to search for individual files across this entire backup. So let's say I wanted to find notepad.exe and I didn't know which day that file was lost or deleted. I could find in just a few seconds every single instance of this file across all backups we've ever taken, including the ones that we've sent off to the archive or to a replication target. Rubric built a variety of technologies from scratch to make all this possible. Obviously, our custom file system, Atlas, as well as our metadata engine enable us to do this, such that we actually pre-index everything. So you don't have to wait for us to search the actual backup data. We actually do that ahead of time for you so that you can quickly find anything no matter where it is in your environment. And I will also point out that while you can click on an individual workload or virtual machine and search, we actually do also have a global search in the top taskbar. So this would allow me to find whatever I'm looking for across all of my data centers, all of my clouds, and all of my SaaS applications being protected by Rubric without having to go into a specific virtual machine or file share or what have you to then search. So again, ease of use baked into the core of what we're doing here. But let's say I wanted to restore the most recent snapshot we have here. So I click in, pretty straightforward. In this particular workload, we have dailies. So obviously only one item listed. From there, I can go ahead and hit recover. And it's a pretty straightforward process. Obviously, I can create a clone of this VM to do a restore. The other cool thing, we can send these backups to a different data center, and we can even convert them to cloud-native virtual machine instances. Obviously, recover files, exactly what it sounds like. I can browse the C drive right through the Rubric UI and download files either back to production or even just download them to my workstation through the web browser. So save me a lot of time if I don't necessarily have to restore something to production and then go log into that system just to get a single file. In-place recovery, we support this for a couple different systems, VMware being one of them. Basically, this is a changed block rewind in production. So instead of having to restore the entire 1 terabyte VM, we only have to send back the 20 gigabytes or whatever the change rate is between what's in production and the delta of our most recent snapshot or whatever you've selected. Even cooler than that, we also have the ability to do live mount. So this actually allows us to spin up a read-write copy of the backup with, of course, the original backup data still isolated and protected. And then we mount this automatically in VMware or whatever the system is. It could also be SQL, it could be a file share. It doesn't have to just be a VM. We can live mount. And then from there, we actually host the storage on the Rubric system such that you don't have to wait for something to move back to production. A great use case here, I'll use SQL as an example. You can just live mount a database. We will automatically link that to SQL Server Manager. And then from there, you can do whatever operations, whether it's a test or perhaps you accidentally deleted a table from production and need to copy that back without any downtime. And you don't want to lose the most recent good data by doing a rollback to a backup. This allows you to do that instantaneously. And then when you're done, you can just turn this off and it automatically cleans up. Or you can migrate it back to production if you're using this as a mass restore tool set after a cyber event or some production storage outage. You get the idea. Instant recovery, pretty straightforward. Just a traditional restore, basically restoring non-change block fashion, if you will. And then, of course, we can also mount individual virtual disks, do whatever you guys need to do to get back up and running. I'm not going to kick these off because this is pretty self-explanatory. I'll dive into SQL real quick because I've alluded to that a few times. As I've said, everything in Rubric we're doing, similar interface. So same as VMware, same as EC2, same as 365 users. List of everything I've got, searchable, I can filter, great. And then at a glance, I can see all the important details of how it's being protected. I'm just going to click into this particular database host, and then I can obviously select specific databases, which also, by the way, we do auto discover and will automatically provide protection. As you can see here, these were derived such that Rubric automatically determined, hey, you didn't protect these, we're going to do it for you. And this is the policy we're going to inherit. Cool. Clicking into a specific database, like I said, wasn't kidding. We do everything in a consistent interface, so you don't have to learn different tools for different workloads or different clouds, yada, yada. Still same details on the left, and then calendar view on the right. The difference, though, for databases is that, as you can see, we have our daily snapshots, of course, but we also have a thick line at the bottom. And what this means is that we have transaction logs, which is really cool because it means we can also automatically replay them for you. So you don't have to do anything inside of the database host to get this database to a usable state. So if I select 11 a.m. and then I decide, hey, I want to kick off a recovery, Rubric will automatically present the database at 11 a.m., do all that manual work for you, and then same as before, you can do a live mount. Hey, I need a quick read-write copy, only takes a couple seconds for Rubric to orchestrate this on the back end. Cool. Obviously, I can do a standard restore. I can send the database elsewhere. And then even cooler is that I can just download the files to my workstation. So maybe I just want to look at something or do, some kind of check or whatever. Great, you can do that here. And then I mentioned that everything Rubric does is managed through the calendar view, even if it's stuff that's in the cloud. Obviously, with things like databases, we give you the option to pre-download a snapshot from a cloud archive or offsite storage location, just so that you have faster performance if you know ahead of time you're going to need that. But of course, if you were to do this on demand, that's fine. We're only going to pull individual files or change blocks from the cloud, so saving both on egress as well as restore time. Pretty cool functionality here. Again, pretty straightforward. Now, I've alluded a couple times to these SLA domains. And what SLA domains are automated protection policies. So no more backup jobs, no more replication jobs. We actually give you the ability to create a single service level agreement style policy where the business decides, hey, I need a backup every day and I need to retain it for however long. And then Rubric's going to go do that. So I'm just going to click on one as an example. Now, the really cool thing about SLA domains is that they can apply to a bunch of different workloads, all with the same policy. I'm going to zoom in on the right just to make it a little easier to see. But you can see this particular protection policy, SLA domain, is actually applied to EC2. It's applied to Hyper-V. We've got Google Cloud and SQL Server all in the same policy. So you could theoretically group workloads however you see fit. And if you say, hey, Rubric, I need a backup every day or whatever you choose to set, and then I need to retain it for however long, we're going to go do that no matter what the workload is. So again, driving simplicity because you don't need 50,000 jobs for 50,000 different workloads. Huge time saver. And then of course, you can incorporate application specific settings into these policies as well. So I'm actually going to go back to the first page and I'm going to show you how quick you can create one of these and get your environment on Rubric up and running. So obviously a little tooltip, what is an SLA domain? Great, cool. And then I wasn't kidding. Like I said, you can start checking the box next to as many workloads or as few workloads as you want. I can protect Kubernetes and file shares and all that. I'm just going to stick with VMware to keep it quick. Obviously, the more of these I select, the more steps I will potentially have for application specific options. Things like transaction log settings or things of that nature. So two pretty straightforward workloads. Going to click as an example. Like I said, obviously, let's pretend we want a daily and we want to hold on to the dailies for 30 days. Cool. And then, of course, we do have custom frequencies. So let's say maybe I want to hold a weekly for, 12 weeks. And then maybe I have a compliance requirement. I need to do a monthly and hold those for 7 years. So this is where you would set that. And then at the bottom, you do have the optional ability to set a backup window, if you will. But this is totally optional. And in fact, you shouldn't really need to do this. Rubric uses a bunch of intelligence, things like disk latency, performance monitoring, things like that, to make sure that we're not hammering production systems. So you can do backups on production databases in the middle of the day, and Rubric will automatically load balance as well as throttle itself to make sure that you don't impact production. And then, of course, because we are an incremental forever architecture and we only back up change blocks, we can accomplish our snapshots very, very quickly. Next page is where we set archiving, because obviously we set 7 years for total retention, and that's just a little excessive to have on-prem necessarily. So archiving is as easy as checking a box. So I select my source cluster. In this case, I'll just say Chicago Data Center. And then I select my target. Rubric supports basically any on-prem or cloud object store or file service as an archive target. We're not the data police. We give you the tools to easily move your data wherever you'd like to move it to after it's taken full backups with Rubric. So in this case, I'm just going to select Azure as an example. And then, of course, we are aware of what we're writing to. So you can also potentially set tiering settings just depending on what your cloud target or object storage target of choice is. From there, the bottom slider is really where you choose how long the data lives where. So like I said, on the first page, we selected, hey, we're going to keep monthlies for 7 years. This slider is where you literally drag how long I want that to stay on the Rubric system before moving off to the cloud or moving off to other storage. Obviously, you can enter a date. So let's say, for example, I want to hold my backups on-prem for 30 days. And then after 30 days, we'll upload them to the cloud and delete them locally. Now, of course, like I said before, you still get to them through the calendar interface or the file search. So restoring from the cloud with Rubric is extremely easy and very fast. And then if you don't have a DR site or something, you can also do instant archive, which basically means that we're going to take our snapshot, we're going to immediately back that up to the cloud, and then keep it also locally for 30 days. And then after 30 days, the cloud copy will be the only copy. So just depending on whatever the business would like to do, of course. Replication, same thing. Turn it on, select a target, and use the familiar slider interface. Pretty straightforward. We do, of course, support multiple targets. And if you want to migrate entirely from your data center to the cloud, that's great because you can actually use a cloud-based Rubric system as a replication target. Make it easy to migrate. So pretty straightforward. And then, of course, these settings, by the way, you can change later. So if you add another data center or maybe you build out a DR strategy later, nothing stopping you from editing, checking this box on, and being on your merry way. I'm just going to turn it on for sake of time. And then on the last page, we get application-specific settings. So obviously, we said we're going to do SQL in this SLA domain. Naturally, we want to do log backups. So let's say I want to do every 15 minutes, and then I want to hold those for 7 days. Great. And then continuous data protection is an option we have for VMware. Basically, think of this as a real-time backup technology, restore to any second kind of thing in the last several hours. Cool technology, can be used for mission critical workloads. Just depends, again, on what your business priorities are. And then that's it, honestly. So now you just enter a name, gold, platinum, Princess Leia, whatever you guys would like, and then you get a nice summary of what you're doing. So if I hadn't been running my jaw for about 4 minutes, you could probably imagine how it would take only about 45 seconds to configure one of these. And then from there, you just check the box next to different virtual machines or entire clusters or 365 applications, whatever, to apply this policy, and you're done. I'm going to exit out of here instead of adding to the list, just keep things clean. And then from there, that's pretty much the majority of data protection at Rubric.
Oh man, well, thank you so much. What an awesome demo and presentation there. I have to say, Nick, whenever you're on, we get a lot of high fives and shout outs, and people really love the look of the Rubric dashboard.
Yeah, thanks for the compliment. We put a ton of work in, and man, does it make life so much easier. As someone who's had to administer these systems personally, I wish I had this back in the day.
Yes, yes, I love that. It's funny how much of a difference that can make, hey, as the usability. I mean, it sounds so obvious when you say it, but I think it often gets forgotten. So it's cool that that's recognized, and yes, just a ton of high fives coming in for both the content and the look. Yes, such a great demo. I do want to jump into some of the questions here, but I want to remind you all that we have the poll up on the screen here. What additional information you would like to get about the Rubric solution? So there's a couple of options for you there. Please do let Rubric know how they can follow up with you. There's obviously a lot of information out there, a lot to cover, and we're not going to get to all of it today. So click on the poll and let the team know how they can kind of reach out to you after we wrap today. Nick, you ready to jump into some questions here?
Yeah, happy to answer them.
Okay, sweet. Well, let's get rolling. We've definitely got a lot. So I'm wondering here if we can chat a little bit about this question here from Duke. How well does the database integration work in high availability SQL environments? Are there replication issues if the restore is older than the instance?
Yeah, great question. Our SQL capability is extremely robust and well built out at this point. There's no problem with using different targets and sources, if you will, regard to age, but also different versions of SQL within some reasonable limits, of course. Very capable of integrating with availability groups and other things of that nature. And then, of course, we replicate data ourselves. But great question, great question.
Well, Kathy here actually has a follow-up to that because, and you've just mentioned SQL. She says, you've mentioned many relational databases. Does this product work with NoSQL databases as well?
Yeah, we do have NoSQL support. We also support things like Oracle, SAP HANA. We've also just released DB2, and we've got a bunch of others as well. So. Okay.
Well, on that note, Kathy has a second question. Kathy and Elena, I have to say, you guys are really rocking the questions today. So Kathy says, we support many Oracle multi-tenant databases. Does this product have the ability to save and restore the pluggable databases individually versus the whole container?
Wow, that is a fantastic question. And the answer is yes, we do support multi-tenant databases in Oracle. Admittedly, I don't get that question every day, so props to you keeping me on my toes.
Yes, you can definitely count on the audience here to come up with keeping you on your toes. Okay, how about what's the shortest backup interval?
Gosh, so there are some minimums depending on workload. For things like databases, we can do down to, I believe, 5 or 10 minutes on transaction logs. For things that are image level, think virtual machines, things of that nature, 30 minutes to an hour. It just kind of depends on what the business needs to accomplish, of course.
Okay, and can the retention policy on the replica be different from the source?
It can be. There's some configuration that goes into that, and obviously, all the considerations at your DR site, but generally, yes, we can support multi-frequency retention.
Okay, and you mentioned a lot of ways that people can sort of customize and make this work in the way that they need it to. Larry's wondering if there's a way to allow select people to restore their own data themselves from specific VMs without, needing IT.
Yeah, great question, Larry. So 2 ways. One, you could expose the Rubric GUI to those individuals. So, database team has access to Rubric. They can only see their databases, and then you can choose further whether or not they have the ability to only do restores or if they can also edit their protection. The second way is by using our APIs to plug into a ticketing system, Jira, ServiceNow, so you can actually do full self-service restores through third-party systems that you may be using without ever having to expose the Rubric UI if you choose to do it that way.
Awesome. I love that. Well, we still have some amazing questions coming in that we are not going to get to today, but I am going to make sure that these get to the Rubric team, so you will get answers back even if we didn't get to your question. But before you run away, Nick, if somebody is looking to get started with Rubric, they want to jump in right now and start learning more, what's their first step?
Yeah, as cliche as it sounds, rubric.com is a phenomenal resource. We just streamlined the site, made it a whole lot easier. But folks are also welcome to email me directly as well to chat.
Perfect. Okay. Well, Nick, thank you so much for being here to chat with us today. This has been an absolute pleasure as always.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Well, and if you are looking to learn a little bit more about Rubric right away, head on over to that Handouts tab and click on the Rubric link. You can grab that white paper best practice guide, prepare and recover from a ransomware attack. Such a critical topic. Be sure to click in and explore and get that information. And thank you to everyone who filled out the poll. A reminder again that if we did not get to your question, we are going to make sure that it gets to the Rubric team and they will follow up with you. And up next, we are already here at another prize giveaway, and we are going to do a grand prize giveaway. But first, let's do one of those $300 Amazon gift cards, and then, well, you know what? I'll leave it in suspense. We have another prize after that. You can check the agenda if you're curious. But okay, $300 Amazon gift card. If you're here present at the summit with us today, this is going to Cindy Slack of Ohio. Cindy Slack of Ohio, you have won a $300 Amazon gift card. And then, we are going to give away one of 3 Nintendo Switches. So the Nintendo Switch consoles are going to Ramsey Okuma of Nevada, Nick Envik of Wisconsin, and Jamie Creek of Kansas. That was Ramsey Okuma of Nevada, Nick Envik of Wisconsin, and Jamie Creek of Kansas. So congratulations to Ramsey, Nick, and Jamie on your Nintendo Switch consoles. I do want to remind you that there's lots more chances to win in the summit here today. Plus, that best question card is going to go out after we wrap because we'll review all the questions asked, even the ones that we don't get to live. So keep those questions coming in. But for now, let's keep zipping right along here because I have another exciting presenter to introduce to you all. Up next on our virtual summit is Jennifer Golden, Product Marketing Manager at Duo Security. Jennifer, thank you so much for being here to chat with us today. Now, I know that you've got some great content to cover with us, so I'm going to hand the mic right on over to you.
My name is Jennifer Golden, and I'm a Product Marketing Manager at Duo Security. And today I'm going to talk about Duo's new risk-based authentication features that have recently entered into public preview. Before I dive into the details around Duo's approach to risk-based authentication, I want to take a minute to think more broadly about the world in which we do business. I think it's pretty obvious to most of us that it is changing and constantly evolving. We've seen the impact of COVID being widespread and long-lasting. So even if you as a worker, you're not fully remote, many companies are offering some kind of hybrid or flexible arrangement, which means that workers are logging in from a variety of devices, locations, and networks. So for people that care a lot about risk, this is a lot to keep up with. To add to that complexity, we also see more variables than ever before. That means we might not always have the same visibility into who is accessing sensitive corporate information. We see lots of different types of workers with different privileges. Plus, the threat landscape is constantly changing and evolving, with attackers getting more sophisticated, and it makes it really difficult to stay a step ahead and be vigilant about these potential risks. So with these challenges of more variables than ever before in a world that's constantly changing, this makes it really difficult to assess and deliver the right level of trust. It was a little bit easier in the past when everyone was on one corporate network, but now we have all these new situations that we have to contend with. So let's say someone is on their same home Wi-Fi network every day. Is that safe? What if they move to their local coffee shop? Are all the applications and data that they're accessing created equal? Or should there be different policies for different types of content? And so with all of these questions, it can be really difficult to think of a clear, easy solution of how to handle it. But there is one frame where we can think through all of these challenges. And it's an established philosophy in security, and it's known as zero trust. Here we have the philosophy of zero trust being broken down by Wendy Nather, who is our advisory CISO here at Cisco. And she says that zero trust can be summarized as trust is neither binary nor permanent. So let's break that down into its two components. First, trust is not binary. That means someone is not trusted or not trusted. It is not a 0 or 1 situation, but someone might fall on a spectrum of trust. Is it a somewhat high trusted or somewhat low trusted? What is the context around that situation where we're not sure, and we really need to evaluate all the potential signals to determine if that login attempt should be counted as a trusted situation. We also want to we don't want to think about trust as being permanent. Now, just because I was in a trusted situation once before, if my circumstances change, that does not mean I should inherently receive the same level of trust. We need to do more than just evaluate the context of being on a corporate network. We need to be purposeful and thoughtful at each login attempt, and not grant access to someone because they check one box. But again, we need to look at the situation in a holistic manner. So we know we want to follow this zero trust framework. What does that actually mean in reality? And there is a solution, and that solution is that we can ask users to authenticate a lot. We could create long and tedious and repetitive steps for users to constantly prove their trustworthiness. We could also raise the bar really high. We could ship a security key to every end user. We could require the most secure method at every login. The problem here is we realize that this is not realistic. It would conflict with business priorities and be just plain annoying. The other challenge is that we know employees can get creative and find ways to get around security measures if it's preventing them from doing their job. So we know this cannot be our solution to fulfilling our zero trust philosophy. Which brings us to the question, how do we realize zero trust and the frictionless user experience? And Duo's approach is to do a lot of the work in the background. And so what Duo will do is take in these new and complex signals and then adjust the security requirements to ensure it is the right user accessing the right resources. The goal of our solution is to be dynamic and behind the scenes so the end user and the security team can feel confident that there is a more secure experience, but not feel that additional burden at the point of login. The goal here is to shift the burden as much as possible to the technology and away from humans. Now, let's actually take a minute and dive into the details of how Duo's risk-based authentication works. one thing that's really important to Duo is that we pride ourselves in transparency. So even though we do all the work in the background, we want security teams to know what decisions were made and why, so they have insight into what's going on in their organization. The first step in Duo's risk-based authentication is to take in all of these risk signals. We know that context around users is constantly changing and evolving. So what Duo will do is look at the device trust, they'll look at the geo IP, they'll look at Wi-Fi fingerprint, which I'll take a minute to explain in more detail in a second. And they'll also look at historical auths and known attack pattern data, meaning that if one geolocation sends requests to 50 users at once, we know that's probably not a valid login. So then based on this risk signal analysis, Duo will adjust the user outcome. If it's a high trust situation, Duo can follow the remembered session and add no additional friction. The user will log in as they normally would and not feel any additional burden. If it's a medium trust situation, then Duo might ask the user to do a more secure authentication method, just to ensure that it is a trusted user, and once they reestablish trust, then they can go back to the remembered session. And finally, if it's a low trust situation, if a user has marked a login attempt as fraudulent, we can tell that this is not a safe situation. Duo can also block that login attempt. So as part of risk-based authentication, we have some new features that we're rolling out that we're really excited to talk about. And one of those is Wi-Fi fingerprint. I'm going to take a minute to explain what this is and how it works and why it's important. The reason Wi-Fi fingerprint was created was with a focus on privacy, but still using location data as a potential risk signal. Traditionally, most solutions use IP address, and so does Duo. IP address is still extremely important in evaluating someone's location. But it's not as clear of an indicator as it used to be. Again, when everyone was on one corporate network, it was an easy tool to evaluate. But now we have people on lots of different networks. We have people using anonymous browsers. We have people using virtual private networks, or VPNs. And this is making IP address less and less reliable. So Duo is now focusing on Wi-Fi network data as a more static and stable indicator of someone's location. Most people are familiar with Wi-Fi networks because whenever you go to log in to Wi-Fi on a new or established location, you click that Wi-Fi network symbol and you see the list of all the potential Wi-Fi networks that you can connect to. If you're in an apartment building, you might see a whole lot. If you're in a home, you might just see your next door neighbors. If you're in a coffee shop, you might see the other businesses next door to you. So what Duo can do is take all of that data and anonymize it. So we don't actually know where the person is located. And then we can compare it to past Wi-Fi fingerprint data. Duo will then use these two data points to determine if someone's location has changed without ever actually knowing that location in the first place. Again, this is Duo's new solution to, again, still use IP address as a location indicator, but not rely on more invasive measures like GPS and boost the IP address's ability to evaluate. Is someone in the same location? Have they moved? And use those two signals together to really enhance this signal. Another new feature that Duo is really excited about and we've recently rolled out is what we're calling verified Duo push. This is a more secure method of login. So most people are familiar with the normal Duo push, where it'll pop up on your phone and you can hit approve or deny. It's a big green check mark or big red X. So it's very easy to quickly log in. But if you have really sensitive applications or highly privileged users, you might not want to make it so easy to log in. And so what Verified Duo Push will do is pause and make the user stop and make sure it's actually them logging in. They'll get a code on their access device. So if you're logging in on your computer, on your browser screen, the 6-digit number will pop up. I'll open up my Duo app and I'll enter that same 6-digit code. I'll hit verify and I'll be able to proceed as I normally would. Now, in a risk-based authentication context, a user will only see a Verified Duo Push if there's some risk signal going on that says, hey, we're not sure if this is a trusted user, so we're going to step up the security measures just in this one moment. Then once trust is reestablished, they can go back to their normal method of login. However, you can also use Verified Duo Push always. So if you have really sensitive information that you want to protect, you can have Verified Duo Push be the only authentication method that people use. And this is really supposed to help too with some of the push fatigue that we've been seeing across customers. And rather than just confirm, yes, I'm logging in, if you're not really logging in, it makes users stop and say, oh wait, I don't have this code. This is not me. I'm going to mark this as fraudulent. Or if it's them, they can quickly enter that code and go about their business. So now that we've established what these two new features offer, I'm going to take a minute to go through an example of how this might work in action. So for me, let's say I normally work from home. I log into my laptop every morning. I have my same routine. Nothing really changes. But one morning I decide, you know what, I'm going to take my laptop to my favorite coffee shop and check my emails there. So I bring my laptop and I go to log into the Wi-Fi network, and now the GeoIP and Wi-Fi fingerprint can see that I've moved locations. Well, so normally when I would log in through a remembered session, I would get a normal Duo Push and I would hit the big green check mark and mark approve, and I would be on my way. In this example, I would now move down to the Verified Duo Push, the more secure method to confirm that it's me. So I'd enter the 6-digit code just like we saw, and then I would go back to my normal login experience. So in this example, we can see that Duo is ingesting a lot of information and then through slight nudges, impacting the experience of the end user. In summary, we can see that to enable this seamless and secure access, what Duo focuses on is continually evaluating risk behind the scenes. This is part of Duo's broader policy engine, and you can tailor it based on your organization. You can deploy it where it makes sense. It can be flexible based on your organization's risk appetite. But the overall philosophy is to take in these risk signals and then adjust the user outcomes to ensure that each login is secure. And even though it requires no additional work on the IT or security teams, they still have the option to review all of the authentication logs and see the full and transparent story. They could see, my login from the coffee shop, that all of a sudden that was marked as a lower trust situation. Why it was marked that way, that I had changed locations and Wi-Fi fingerprint had noticed that. So behind the scenes, administrators can still see what outcomes users are experiencing and why, but they don't have to monitor it at each and every individual login attempt. And overall, we see Duo's risk-based authentication as serving these two key benefits. One is ease of use. We really want to streamline user access in trusted scenarios. We don't want to add any extra burden if it's not necessary. If all of the context and risk signals is showing that this is a safe and authentic login, we don't want to stop a user from doing their job. However, this brings us to our next part, which is having defense in depth. Now, that is a dynamic reaction to a change in trust or risk. If something is a potential threat signal, if there is something that Duo marks as a potential risk, then through slight nudges, they can have the user resolve that independently and get back to their normal workflow. And if it's something that's even more challenging, or a user is in a potential situation where they are facing an attack, then Duo can block that completely. So the focus here is to fulfill the goal of zero trust without the extra friction and make it as easy as possible for users to go about their workday and get their work done without adding any additional frustration on their end. And with that, I will take any questions, and hopefully you enjoyed learning a little bit more about Duo's risk-based authentication. Thank you.
Oh man, thank you, Jennifer. What a great presentation, an awesome walkthrough, and we got a lot of high fives from the audience. So clearly the audience is also really enjoying hearing about Duo. I want to jump into some questions with you, but before we do that, I do want to point out that we have a poll up on the screen for you here. And what we're wondering is, what additional information would you like to get about the Duo solution? So this is a really great opportunity. You know, we saw a few people saying, hey, this is my first time hearing about Duo. I see Rachel out there is already a customer, a few other people. So, you know, if this is your first time hearing about Duo, or maybe you're a longtime customer, there's always more information to learn. This is your opportunity to tell Duo how they can support you as you're exploring that. So please do click on that poll, let them know how they can follow up with you, and we will make sure they get that information. While you're clicking on that poll, Jennifer, should we jump into some questions here?
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm ready.
Let's do it. Okay. All right. Well, I want to start with this one here. So what Duo Edition is required to access risk-based authentication features?
Yeah, that's a great question. And if we have any current customers listening out there, you'll be probably familiar that Duo has 3 editions. So we have our MFA edition, which is our most basic, and then we have our Access and our Beyond edition, which are our premium editions. So in order to access the full suite of our risk-based authentication solution, that would be in our Access and Beyond edition. However, if someone is just interested in parts of the features, for example, our verified Duo push that I explained, which is the step up from our normal Duo push, and you want to just turn that on any application for any user, that's available on all 3 editions.
Oh, awesome. Love that. How is risk-based authentication different than Duo's current adaptive access policies?
Yeah, that's another great question. So Duo's enable policies for a long time, where users have the ability to set both a global policy for all users as well as specific policies for particular user groups or applications, especially if we have those really sensitive areas. So administrators can still go in and set those adaptive authentication policies. What risk-based authentication does different is it makes that interaction dynamic at the point of login. So rather than having the Duo administrator have to go in and put those policies in place, you can just turn on risk-based authentication for, again, this could be a global policy, it could be for a specific user or app. And once those risk signals start, Duo can start analyzing those risk signals, it will immediately change the user outcomes at that point of login when they're trying to access corporate resources.
Now, Jennifer, you in your presentation talked a lot about streamlining and making things as easy as possible. And Duke here has just a clarification question. So what he wants to make sure is, can this be set up on a per application and per user situation. So while Jane Smith is trusted on ABC app, John Smith is not, but John is maybe more trusted on XYZ app. I love the phrasing of that too. Very clear question.
Yeah, and I think this is where policy becomes super helpful because organizations are complex, users are complex, and different people should have access to different resources and should only access those on certain types of devices or certain situations, right? So you might want a user to only access your most sensitive information on a managed device and not on their cell phone. And so Duo enables you to set up those policies. Again, like I had mentioned before, we have the global policies, which you can set for your organization overall, or you can create user groups or policies based on that specific application. So that way you can tailor how Duo works for your organization.
Love that customization. That's awesome. Okay, how does risk-based authentication help organizations where users are experiencing MFA fatigue? Oof, boy, we hear that a lot.
Oh yeah, so when multi-factor authentication became super well-known or started to become more well-known, people got really used to it, right? So as with any routine, you open your computer, you log in, you get your push notification, you accept it. All of a sudden, a push notification is not an extra security measure. It's just sort of part of your workflow. And so what we'll see is that users are starting to, as it becomes more and more normalized, users might just accept a push notification because they're used to it. It's not anything malicious. It's just part of that workflow. They might, accidentally hit yes. They might, absentmindedly hit it, and it's not actually them logging in. And so we have to be aware that MFA fatigue is real. So let's not over ask our users to authenticate when it's not necessary. So as I explained, how we have remembered sessions. So if all the risk signals are firing and showing, no, this is safe. We've already analyzed this context, and this user is trusted and should access this resource, then they can go about their day. But if there is some signal that's showing, wait, something's a little off here, then we would step up the security requirement. So it's not just, hit the yes or no, hit the approve or deny box. It's wait, pause, you have to enter a code on top of that. Because we're aware sometimes people absent-mindedly just hit that big green check mark. So we wanted to put some additional security requirements in place to make someone pause and really think, is this me logging in? And if it's not you logging in, then you're stopped because you don't have the code to continue.
Okay, well, so let's talk about the administrator side of it then. We have a question here. How can Duo administrators monitor the risk assessment at the point of login?
Yeah, so that's another great question because, as we said, this happens in real time, in the moment. The user is automatically given access and allowed to log in, or they're stepped up to a more secure method. So as an administrator, that might be a little scary for you as all of these security events are happening in real time. But what we offer at Duo is transparency into what is happening and why. So in your authentication log on the administrative panel, you'll see a trust assessment column, and each login will be marked as normal trust, high trust, low trust, and you can hover your mouse over that specific incident, and it will explain exactly what happened. So if something was a low trust situation, you might see that it was a novel IP address and Wi-Fi fingerprint. So you can see exactly what makes something less trusted rather than just give it a general score, but really give the administrators the power to see into what's happening in their environment.
That's so key, that insight. Okay, so talked about the administrators. Let's jump back to the end users. So what type of end user communication does deploying Duo solution require?
The good part about this is it doesn't require that much because some people might not even feel that risk-based authentication has been turned on. if someone is going about their normal day, if anything, they'll receive less authentication requests, so it'll be even easier. That being said, if again there is this novel login experience, if there is some risk signal detected, and out of nowhere someone sees a verified Duo push for the first time, it's very straightforward. You see the code, the directions are on the app, and it's on the browser where you're trying to log in. So a user can self-remediate and quickly log in, but people also don't really love surprises. So just as a general practice, it's good to communicate that this new security measure has been turned on in the environment, and how the security team would typically communicate with end users about just what to expect and why it's happening. Users see all the the cybersecurity breaches in the news as well, and so you can always explain that this is how our organization is stepping up our security measures to make sure that everyone's accessing the resources they should, and that that you have your best defenses up.
Well, I love that, and we're getting pretty close to the end of time here. But I want to ask this question because I love when we get it. There's a lot of folks out there who are weighing out different solutions, trying to decide what's going to work best for them. And obviously, it's about finding the right tool for your organization. So what is the number one thing that you think makes Duo's solution unique?
Duo, we find security is only usable, or security only works if it's usable. So I think that point. Ease of use, that removing the friction from the end user experience is really key here. People are really creative, and they're going to find ways around security measures if it's extremely burdensome or stops people from doing their job. And I think that's just the key thing about risk-based authentication. Again, it steps up when it needs to, and it steps back when everything is safe. And especially now as solutions are becoming more dynamic and behind the scenes, and that's great. It takes that burden away from the human, and it puts it all on the technology, which is exactly how we want to use technology. And so wherever we can get out of the way and make it easier for people to do their job, but do it in a safer way, that's what we want to focus on.
I love that. Get out of your own way. Do things safely. Those are good takeaways. So for somebody out there who just got really pumped up, they're ready to jump in, they want to get started, what do you recommend? What's their first step?
I would say sign up for your trial and start playing around with it. That's the best way to learn a new product, is to try it out. And so as our handout, we gave an overview solution brief of risk-based authentication. You'll see that there's a link at the bottom to start your free trial. So hop on in, start your free trial, and see for yourself how great risk-based authentication is. Don't just take my word for it. And you can get started with it today.
I love that. All right. Well, and we just got a thank you from Bassam, who wanted to say thank you to you, Jennifer. Great presentation. I have to agree. This was absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much for taking some time to come and chat with us today.
Of course. Thank you. It's great being here.
All right, and I do want to remind you all, as Jennifer just mentioned, there's a handout in the handout section for you, so click on the Duo link, and it'll take you right to that solution brief she was just telling us about, exploring risk-based authentication and how the Duo solution can help your organization respond to risk and step up security measures. And I love this, so that you frustrate your attackers and not your trusted users. That's a great line. So go check that out, download that, hang on to that for later. Thank you to everyone who filled out the poll and asked a question. Again, all of your questions will go to the Duo team, so you will get answers back from them, even if we didn't get to you live today. And hey, look at that. It is already time for another prize giveaway. So up next, we have another $300 Amazon gift card. A quick reminder that you must be present here at the live webinar in order to win. And our next lucky winner here of a $300 Amazon gift card is Eric Selentine of Wisconsin. Eric Selentine of Wisconsin. All right, Wisco crew. Congratulations, Eric. As always, we will be in touch about claiming your prize after we wrap. And don't forget that there are still lots more chances to win a prize today, plus that best question card from each session. Even if we don't get to you live, you are still entered to win that best question card. So hang tight and stay tuned for that. But for now, I have one more piece of very exciting news because I get to introduce one of my absolute favorite people to chat with on a webinar, and that is my fellow moderator, David Davis. Hi, David. Thanks so much for joining us today on the summit.
Hey, Jess. It's great to be on. This has been a fantastic summit thus far. I've learned so much. I mean, we learned from Ned starting off with on the event, Zerto, Couchbase, Rubric, and now Duo. And with that, Jess, thank you so much for your excellent moderation. We can now move on, and we've got a quick little, hopefully it's interesting to everyone out there dealing with the threat of ransomware. We at Actual Tech Media published a new book. It's completely free. It's a free ebook over on our website, ransomware.org. You can find a link to it there in the Handouts tab. Check out the ransomware ebook. It says it's free. It's also sold as a physical book and a Kindle edition over on Amazon.com. If you want to just Google ransomware book on Amazon, you'll find it there. But this is a short 1-minute video that gives you a little bit of background on what's inside this book and how it can help you. All right, excellent. I hope that you all enjoyed that short little promo for our new book here from Actual Tech Media. Again, you can download it for free. Click on the link there in the Handouts tab where it says check out the ransomware ebook. That'll take you to our website, ransomware.org. If you scroll on down there, you just put in your name and email address, and you'll receive the ebook completely free. And again, if you want a Kindle edition or a physical edition, you can go to Amazon.com and you can purchase that there as well. All right, so with that, it's now my pleasure to bring in our next presenter on today's summit. Welcome to Jen Vaccaro, who is a Senior Product Marketing Manager at Okta. Jen, it's great to have you on the summit today. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. We know that identity tasks from provisioning to orchestration are both increasingly complicated and increasingly important, as identity has become one of the most highly targeted resources for threat actors today. So in the next few minutes, I'll talk about how you can automate some of your most common tasks to save time and innovate quicker, all while increasing security. As always, we must share the safe harbor to remind customers, partners, and external audience members that these are forward-looking discussions and should not be considered commitments to deliver. So today, I'll introduce some of the challenges we're seeing in IT and identity and talk about Okta Workflows, our low-code, no-code automation platform, before discussing use cases that you and your team could start automating today. And then I'll close with Q&A. The pressures to innovate and deliver incredible digital experiences are just becoming harder, whether you're getting your employees access to apps for work or providing a great customer experience. There are more and more touch points to manage. Customer expectations are always rising, and the consequences of getting it wrong, either from an experience or security perspective, have become increasingly high. At the same time, Gartner says that by 2023, the number of active citizen developers will be at least 4x the number of professional developers. This means that there's a shortage of developers, and developer capabilities should be made accessible to the average citizen, so anyone can tackle these integration challenges and start focusing on creating great experiences for internal and external customers. So what are some of those experiences? Well, one is around user lifecycle. And this is about getting a lot smarter than just CRUD, create, update, deprovision of users as they onboard, offboard, or move within a company. This is about creating users in apps such as Slack or Salesforce so that they have access to it on day one of their onboarding. Or deprovisioning and doing a lot more than just unassigning users to apps or removing them from the organization, but also transferring folders to their manager in Box, for example, before deleting the user so their work doesn't just disappear. Another area could be around assigning group membership temporarily based on time, such as contractors or partners who only need access for, let's say, 30 days. A second area is around security. We're seeing a greater need to detect and alert employees of suspicious activities or capture phishing events from sources like GoFish. This could also be around identifying and suspending inactive users. The third area we're seeing is around license management and the need to dynamically allocate licenses because not all users need 24/7 access to all apps. We're even seeing customers save $100 a month by reducing the number of seats they purchase for apps like Google Workspace, etc., by only giving users access when they need it and relinquishing it to someone else after, allowing them to purchase less seats and save money there. The last area we're seeing a need for automation is around communications, whether this is to customers or employees, to send a welcome email or a Slack message automatically. This is where Workflows comes in to automate and orchestrate any identity process, all with low to no code for the user. Workflows connects to and harnesses any API to allow coders and non-coders alike to build incredible experiences centered around identity. The benefit is the ability to expand the power and number of people building these processes outside of just developers. These could be IT admins, security teams, and people working on back-end integrations, tying together systems and applications, now without manual or custom scripts. This is all to accelerate time to market and deliver operational sustainability for you and your team. So how does Workflows work? Well, workflows are built with a simple if this, then that identity-based logic. A flow starts with a trigger or event. This could be many things. A new user is created or they've changed roles. In this case, we're assigning a user to an app like Salesforce to start the flow. Next, you can run logic like an if this, then that function. In this example, we're granting users access to Salesforce and evaluating their user group. Are they on the MIA sales team? Then I'd like to perform a deep action in an app, like assigning a territory in Salesforce within their role. So let's assign the user to the MIA territory automatically. Finally, I want to chain on another action in another app. Here, I'm adding the user to a sales channel in Slack and sending a welcome message. This is a very basic example of how we can begin to think about tying together solutions as we build customized flows that will be relevant to your business. And we're seeing a lot of customers unlock value here, whether it's Slack that's saving 45 minutes a day on automating IT tasks for access review and monitoring processes, or Intercom that has a 70% reduction in time to prepare for annual company audits, or Chipotle, which has been able to eliminate the manual programming required for custom HTML emails. We hope that you and your team could find ways to save time through automation as well. So now I want to show you a quick demo so you can see what Okta workflows look like in the real world. So I've gone in here and I've logged into my workflows console, and you can see that we have tons of templates that are already pre-built for you and your team to further lower the amount of work required. You also have a lot of pre-built connections that you can go in and access as well. For this example, I'm going to show you how to set up and send email notifications with Office 365. There's video walkthroughs and setup documentation in GitHub as well. So I'll just go ahead and add the template here. So this template sends automatic email notifications within your org when a user is suspended in Okta. This is a generic template, so you can swap out event and email provider or use the same type of logic to send an email to customers or employees based off other actions. So if I go in here, you can see that the user suspended event card has already been pre-populated. I'm just going to go in and choose my connection here. Next, you can see that this composition card contains the text of the email that will be sent to the admin once a user has been suspended to notify them. Lastly, we'll just have the information of who to send this email to, and I'm going to go ahead and put in my email. All right, so now you're done. That's all you have to do. So to get this running, we'll just go ahead and save it. I'm going to put this flow as on. And if you want to test this out, you can go into your own Okta tenant, go into people, and you can see a test user, for example, and you can go in and suspend the user. You could then go back just to see that it's working, and you could check the flow history, or you could check your personal email to make sure that you really did get an email notifying you that the user has been suspended. So there's a lot more you can do than just emailing an admin when the user is suspended. For example, you could set up a flow to discover a user's inactivity status and suspend or deprovision them from an app if they have, let's say, not been active for 30 days. This is to protect your company, so you only allow just the right users to have access to your most sensitive information. For external threats, a user can report suspicious activity, trigger an automated alert while moving the user to a high-risk group, and force the user to reset password and expire their session, for example. Another area that we're seeing is increasingly common is around enabling external collaboration. This could be with partners, contractors, vendors, etc. So here we have an example of managing contractors. You can automatically identify a contractor end date and then set a notification to the manager and all necessary action for offboarding. You can also provide guest access to users depending on whatever they need access to, and make sure that they only have it for the duration of time that they actually need it. The last one I'll share for today is more around customer identity-centric use cases. So here's an example. You could automatically grant access to gated content for newly registered users. This helps greatly improve end user experience, so already registered users don't have to go through the same process again. This seems obvious, but so many organizations still overlook something like this. You can also identity-proof a new customer and nudge sales to reach out. This action helps bridge the marketing and sales follow-up gap with automation. So now I want to go into Q&A, and I've been getting several questions throughout, so let me just address some of these. So one of them is asking, is workflows HIPAA compliant? This is a question we get a lot, and we should have some really positive news in that area to share pretty soon, so stay tuned. One of the other questions is around FedRAMP. That is also something that we're actively working on with workflows, and we hope to be able to update users we hope to update users. I don't want to give a time frame just yet for that. Another question is asking, how do you handle versioning and logging? So one of the things that I do want to make sure that users are aware of is we've had some recent feature launches. And so one of these is flow backup. And this is allowing users to back up their flows to external providers such as GitHub or Google Drive. So you can now go ahead and do this for your flows in the console, and we have some documentation there, as well as was posted on our blog if you want more information. The author of that post was Max Katz, if you want to search for that. The other piece that has been recently announced was workflows in syslog. So this is enabling 17 new workflows events in the system log so that users can have a central repository to get logging events for their flows. And then just because we get asked about this a lot, I do want to make folks aware that we're working more on expanding flow versioning. And so we hope to have additional updates in the next little bit here. And really what flow versioning will do is it'll allow customers to natively save and roll back versions of their flows, giving them more confidence and control to revert unwanted changes if necessary. So for all of these sort of forward-looking features, we definitely recommend that users stay tuned on our social channels like LinkedIn or Twitter, or if you're an existing customer, we send a lot of this information through like customer newsletters, for example, as they go out. Another question, let me just scroll here. And so another question that we've gotten here is there a way to try out workflows for free? So I'm happy to say that yes, there is. Just as of the last few quarters, we've now enabled a workflows free starter pack, which will allow you to get up to 5 free flows. So you can go ahead and start exploring. You could see that the example I gave on sending email notifications was just about 1 flow. So there's a lot that you could do to try and, start exploring here on your own. All right, so let's see what kind of other questions that we have from users. All right, so one that comes up a lot is about the support that customers can have once they are building out workflows, and as you're getting more advanced. So one of the things that I want to call out as far as support is we do have customer office hours. So whether that is one-on-one and you want to spend time, like dedicated time with our product team, you can do that one-on-one, or you can do that in like community office hours as well, which gives you a chance to like run through your flows, ask questions live, or even if you just want to provide feedback, we definitely want to enable our users to do that as well. And so that looks about it as far as questions that we'll have time for today, because I did want to get this one pretty quickly and allow you guys back to your lives. So I do just want to call out in the time we have to learn more. We have a lot of pre-built templates like I briefly shared on the screen, but you can check those out on okta.com/platform/workflows/templates. And as we said, if you're an existing customer, feel free to sign up for office hours or reach out to your account rep or our support team. And we're always happy to work with you and help you automate a lot of your most complex tasks with Okta workflows. Thanks for joining, and I'll let you all get back to the rest of your day. Bye.
Great presentation, Jen. Really appreciate that. I learned a lot about Okta. It sounds like it could help so many companies out there. I've just brought up a poll question for everyone here on the event today. We want to get your feedback on this poll. It says, what additional information would you like about the Okta solution? And I can tell by the volume of questions that has come in, there's still a lot of folks who have some additional questions, might need some additional help. We'll get back to those folks, or Okta, I should say, will get back to you with answers to those questions. We do appreciate those. But we also want to get your feedback here on this poll. So go ahead and register your response on that. I think the best way, the best option, my favorite on this poll is to get your own personal demo of the Okta solution. That way you can ask all the questions you have and get your own personal answers. And so I'll leave this poll question up while I announce our next Amazon $500 gift card winner. This is going out to Jainal Pervez from Texas. Congratulations. Jainal Pervez from Texas. All right, if you haven't answered the poll, now's the time to do it, because we're going to move on now to our next set of grand prizes. and I always have fun announcing these grand prizes. Our next set of grand prizes, this is for a Samsung S22. We've got 3 of these, 3 Samsung S22, these brand new hot phones. I see someone out there says they are ready. These are going out to Patrick Figat from North Carolina, Patrick Figat from North Carolina, Mike Powers from Illinois, and Erica Christensen from Missouri. Congratulations to those prize winners. We will be summing up the names of all the prize winners at the end of the event. But stay tuned. We've still got 2 more gift cards, and we've got 3, I can't believe we're giving away these, 3 Lego Millennium Falcons. I got to get my hands on one of those. All right, so congratulations to those prize winners. It's now my pleasure to move on and introduce you to our next presenters on the summit today. Welcome to Jeremy Defrey, Senior Solutions Architect, and Barry Goff, Senior Director of Platform Strategy, both from OutSystems. Jeremy and Barry, take it away.
Thank you, David, for that great introduction. And I'm really excited to be here today to talk about supercharging development in IT with high-performance low-code. And the first question you're probably asking yourself is, what is high-performance low-code? Everyone's heard of low-code by now, but the reality is that not all low-code is created equal. High-performance low-code is different from regular low-code in that it has a unique set of capabilities. While most low-code platforms are being used in citizen development kind of fashion and used for more tactical edge of the network kinds of applications, high-performance low-code is specifically aimed at helping customers build strategic applications. And in order to build those strategic applications, high-performance low-code has to deliver mission-critical capabilities, security, availability, reliability. All the abilities have to be there in order to support those strategic applications. In addition to that, again, as we said, regular low-code is targeted more towards non-developer, where high-performance low-code is geared specifically to the professional developer. On top of that, it's not just about developing applications, it's about the entire software development lifecycle. So having elite level DevOps where you can make updates to your applications multiple times a day instead of on the scale of weeks or months or even years is an essential capability of a high-performance low-code platform. And then finally, many regular low-code platforms are built on sort of last generation of technology and make it hard for customers to stay up to date with the latest technology advances. High-performance low-code, on the other hand, is built on the state-of-the-art technology that's available today, and as those technologies advance, as new paradigm shifts in the IT world happen, high-performance low-code enables customers to take advantage of those and to move their applications forward without massive amounts of churn. And finally, while regular low-code platforms operate kind of as an island or outside of the purview of IT, high-performance low-code is designed to run specifically within the bounds of IT, under the governance of IT, and integrating with all of the enterprise development investments that IT already has established for building traditional applications with traditional code, tools, and frameworks. So this is what we think about when we think about high performance low code. And specifically, it's the things that we use to measure the OutSystems platform and whether or not we're really delivering what our customers are asking for. So based on, the things that we just talked about in terms of the capabilities of the category, OutSystems itself is delivering a platform that meets those requirements of a high performance low code platform. OutSystems has actually been around for 20 years. We were doing low code before the term low code ever existed. The term was coined only 8 years ago, but we've been doing this for far longer than even the term being around. And in fact, if you look at the applications that our customers have built, they definitely meet the description of strategic applications. A lot of the companies on this list, and thousands more, have built applications that drive revenue. They've replaced core systems using OutSystems. They've either extended core systems like SAP or Salesforce, or connected those core systems together, or in some cases, they've even replaced those systems with entirely custom-built core systems using the OutSystems platform. These companies' revenue depends upon the applications that they've built with OutSystems, which is the very definition of a strategic application. The OutSystems platform is able to help those customers build those applications because we've built the platform from the ground up to deliver the critical capabilities necessary for those strategic apps. OutSystems 11 offers enterprise class security with over 250 different checks from design time to deployment time, so that you're, even the most demanding CISO will be satisfied with the applications that are built using OutSystems. On top of that, not only are we constantly updating the platform to make sure that any new vulnerabilities in the underlying technology are patched immediately, but we also use AI in the platform to analyze customer code to make sure that as customers are developing their applications, they're not introducing through code any security vulnerabilities. So truly, applications are secure from design time through to runtime. As I mentioned, a key capability of high-performance low-code is the idea of governance, and OutSystems is designed with enterprise-class governance built in, so we always know who's using the applications, who's building the applications, what applications they're allowed to build, what data they're allowed to have access to. All that is built into the platform. Scalability is core of what we are able to deliver. We have customers with consumer-facing applications that support tens to hundreds of millions of users on the platform. And of course, no application is good unless it is reliable and available. And the platform offers a whole host of capabilities to ensure your applications are available and always running. Obviously, the core of the OutSystems platform and the whole raison d'etre of low code is visual model-based development. And OutSystems has created a development platform suited to the professional developer. It's full stack, and whatever a developer needs to build, they can realize with OutSystems. One of the challenges of most low-code platforms is in order to deliver developer productivity, they've taken away capability. One of the benefits of OutSystems having been around for 20 years is we've been able to figure out how to add all that capability back into the platform and without creating additional complexity. So developers are able to get the highest level of productivity possible while still being able to benefit from visual development and not run into brick walls. Again, it's full stack development insofar as you can build your front ends, you can build workflows, you can implement your data logic, your application logic, you can connect to data sources. Another really important differentiator of the OutSystems platform when it comes to professional development is you can integrate all your existing investments in traditional code into your OutSystems applications. So if you have libraries for defining corporate standard user interfaces, or if you have investment in things like a pricing model that you've already implemented with traditional tools and frameworks, or a component for doing AR or VR or something like that that you want to integrate into an OutSystems application, you can do that from our tools. And in fact, that's one of the key reasons why a lot of customers have chosen OutSystems, because of the ability to take advantage of our visual development while also being able to take advantage of all their existing investments in traditional code that they use for other applications. On top of that, we're not only using visual tools and automation for the development applications, but we're using visual tools and automation for the entire DevOps lifecycle. So testing is built into the platform, deployment is built into the platform, monitoring, user feedback, all that is built into the platform, as well as extensible. So if you already have tools for monitoring, you can take advantage of that and integrate into the OutSystems platform. Same thing with testing, or same thing with DevOps management. If you're using Jenkins or Azure DevOps, you can integrate those into the DevOps lifecycle of OutSystems. But this is really important because a lot of the apps that are built with traditional or regular low-code platforms are apps that are built once and they're never touched again. OutSystems applications, it's our strong belief that it's not really how fast you get to version 1 of an application, it's how fast you get to version 100 or version 1000. We have customers who are doing multiple deployments a day to production for their core applications. And that rises to the level of elite performer when you look at the DORA DevOps framework. That's the sort of performance that you would get if you were a Tesla or an Uber, and we made that available to small, nimble teams who are trying to operate at the highest level. Another thing that's really important is that your applications will evolve as the technology evolves, and that OutSystems can make changes to our underlying infrastructure without negatively impacting your applications. And so the way our platform is built, where you build your applications, they're instantiated in a meta model, and then we compile code that then runs on top of the runtime. What that means is that your code is independent of the runtime implementation. And as new technologies are brought to market, as advances in database technology or advances in networking, or we have, or a security vulnerability shows up in a AWS service that we need to patch, we can make those changes to the underlying runtime without ever impacting your applications. We can make those runtime updates silently, and your apps run continuously without change. And in the case where there are major paradigm shifts, like the one that we're kind of in right now today, which is evolving from sort of a cloud-ready set of technologies or cloud-optimized technologies to cloud-native technologies, we can help customers move their application portfolio from one technology paradigm forward to the next technology paradigm. This is a really key differentiator when it comes to high performance low code. Again, it's not about building applications once and then forgetting them or just letting them metastasize. It's about being able to continuously update your applications, and that means you continually adding functionality as your business requirements changes, and it means us continually evolving the underlying platform as the technology landscape changes. Another big part of what high performance low code means is that your high performance low code platform needs to run within your existing IT environment. Most low code platforms operate kind of as an island, right? They're run by a business group, not by an IT team. They're managed by more business developers as opposed to professional developers or professional IT people. And that leads to a whole host of challenges, whereas a high performance low code platform like OutSystems is designed to integrate with everything that you have in terms of your application technology, but also your development tooling, scaffolding, tools, whatever you have. So, for instance, OutSystems has out-of-the-box integrations for over 400 different platforms, everything from SAP and Salesforce to PostgreSQL, MongoDB, whatever you can think of, there's an out-of-the-box integration for the OutSystems platform. Additionally, OutSystems has by far the biggest repository of third-party components that are freely available to be used in the platform. There are sample applications that have been pre-built. There are business components. There are technical components. There are components for taking advantage of things like AI services from Azure or AI services from AWS. There are OCR components, and whatever you can think of, components for accessing Google Maps or accessing the camera or the Bluetooth stack on a mobile phone. Almost all those things that you would need to build high performance, professional, mission critical apps are already available in the OutSystems Forge. On top of that, we can integrate with whatever your directory services, your DevOps investments, your observability investments. OutSystems is designed to work efficiently within your existing IT infrastructure. And that is a fundamental difference between a regular low-code platform and a high-performance low-code platform like OutSystems. So at the end of the day, because of all these differentiated capabilities that OutSystems in particular and high-performance low-code platforms in general offer, the ultimate benefit is, number one, you can build whatever you need. If you need to build a tactical application, you can build that with OutSystems. But if you also need to build a strategic application, an application that's delivering, new revenue streams or are essential to the core operations of the business, you can do that with a platform like OutSystems. It's also because of the productivity benefits of visual development, the productivity benefits of automation for CI/CD, the productivity benefits of AI built in for quality assessment and development assistance. All those contribute to helping you get the most out of your team of developers and IT staff. And finally, because of the architecture of a high-performance low-code platform, as technology evolves, as your business requirements evolve, you can always stay ahead of the curve. You can consistently update and manage and improve your applications, and we're going to consistently update, improve, and manage our underlying platform. So altogether, those are a broad set of benefits that OutSystems and high-performance low-code can deliver that are unique. And again, this isn't the reason we are talking about high-performance low-code is that not all low-code platforms are capable of delivering these kind of benefits. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen, and I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you today.
Well, thank you, Barry, for that awesome presentation and a really cool exploration of low code. We have a ton of great questions coming in already. I want to make sure that we can get to as many of them as we can before we have to wrap. So, Barry, you ready to dive in?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jess.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's start out with this one here. I think it's a good place to start. So one of our audience members is wondering, can OutSystems be used to build large or enterprise applications? And throwing in kind of a follow-up question to that, you mentioned the importance of being able to keep, code and systems agile. So how large or are there any size restrictions in terms of large or small that OutSystems can scale to? Are we talking millions of users or transactions? What's the scalability option for us there?
Yeah, I mean, there are still some kind of applications that customers may want to rely on their traditional coding and tools to build, but for the most part, there really isn't a limit to what you can build with the OutSystems platform. I think I mentioned earlier, there's one customer that I know of that has applications that supports upward of 100 million users, and it's a consumer-facing application. We have a customer that has implemented a system that manages the entire tax authority for a small country. We have customers who have replaced their entire ERP system with applications built on the OutSystems platform. What you can build with the platform really is almost limitless in terms of the amount of complexity, the size of the user population, the throughput of transactions. If you can imagine it, you can build it with OutSystems, short of maybe building the next version of Fortnite.
Shoot, that's what I was going to do this weekend. But on that note, I actually think that this will play well with our next question here, because so it sounds like sky's the limit, lots you can do, which is really cool. But in terms of the training and getting up to speed, we have an audience member here wondering how long it's going to take the average developer. Obviously, we have outliers on either side, but how long is it going to take the average developer to get up to speed on OutSystems?
Yeah, that's a great question, because that is a differentiator between high performance low code and regular low code, in that again, regular low code is maybe more targeted towards a citizen developer and probably has a slightly shallower learning curve, but you run into walls really quickly. Whereas without systems, again, if you can imagine it, you can build it, but it also means there's some, access to additional levels of complexity that take some time to learn. And I think a good rule of thumb is, someone that has traditional development skills can probably build their first app within a couple hours. Is able to build something that is really valuable and highly functional probably within a week, and applications that typically take maybe a year to build with traditional tools and frameworks will probably take about a quarter of the time. So, 3 to 4 months instead of 12 months using traditional tools. So that's a pretty good, build your first app in a couple hours, but, build something really strategic and valuable in a couple months.
That sounds great. Barry, honestly, I wish we could keep going because we still have lots of questions coming in, but we are running a bit short on time, so we're going to have to leave it there. But before you take off, if somebody out there has just fallen totally in love with OutSystems, they can't wait to jump in, they want to learn more, what is their first step? What do they do to get started?
So the first thing that I would encourage people to do is go to our website, outsystems.com, and you can download the personal edition of our platform and take it for a test run. There's also a lot of great content. If you're more of a business decision maker, go to the platform page on our website and take a look and learn more about things like security, scalability, reliability, the breadth of the capabilities of the platform. Those would be my recommendations.
Well, that's perfect. That's a lot of great places to get started. Barry, thank you again so much for being here. This has just been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Jess. I really appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Well, David, back on over to you.
Thanks so much, Jess. Really appreciate that. Again, excellent presentation there from OutSystems. I did just bring up the poll for everyone out there. I want to call your attention to on the screen. The folks from OutSystems, they want to know what additional feedback, what additional information would you like about OutSystems? Would you like to get a personal demo and try it out for yourself? Maybe some additional information on how it works, technical details, customer case studies. I'll leave that up while I announce our next prize winner here on today's summit. Let's see, we've got another Amazon $500 gift card. This one going to Julia Shapa from Massachusetts. Congratulations, Julia Shapa from Massachusetts. Don't forget to stay tuned. After our next and final presentation, we have another gift card and those Lego Millennium Falcons that we've been hearing about and I've been salivating over a little bit. So make sure you stay tuned for those prize drawings as well. And if you haven't responded to the poll, now is the time to do it. If you have, make sure that you check out the Handouts tab. It's there that you'll find a link to OutSystems/demos, and you can get a demo of OutSystems right there. Clicking on the link and check it out for yourself. It's just a few minutes long, and you can see it in action. Of course, also there are links in the Handouts tab, one for each of the different presenters and solutions on the summit today. So make sure that you check out all of those while you're in the Handouts tab. All right, thank you to those who responded to the poll. It's now time to move on to our next presentation on today's summit. I'm excited to introduce you to Mr. Jeff Kelly, Senior Product Marketing Manager at Nutanix, and David Teague, Technical Marketing Engineer at Nutanix. Jeff and David, it's great to have you on. Take it away.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Happy to be here. As mentioned, I'm Jeff Kelly. I'll be joined by David Teague very shortly. But why don't we get started? So today we're going to talk about the 3 must-haves for successful database management. Now to do that, I thought a good way to start would be just to talk a little bit about the role of the DBA. and what that really means. And if you think about it from a historical context, DBAs, database administrators, some of you probably have that role. And as you know, traditionally, the job title means exactly what you do: perform administrative tasks to keep the databases up and running smoothly. A very important job. Databases support applications, enterprise applications that help run the business. So it's a critical role. Times have changed, however. Historically, DBAs often would specialize in one database or another. You'd often, you'd be an Oracle DBA or a SQL Server DBA. Enterprises would often standardize on a given database. So you might be an Oracle shop, for example. And even as we saw kind of the rise of cloud over the last 15, 20 years, at least in the beginning part of that cloud era, if you will, databases for the most part remained on premises, partly due to data gravity and the fact that they're so crucial to the day-to-day operations of the business. I think some companies were reluctant to move to the cloud, move their databases to the cloud. So kind of in that initial phase of cloud adoption, databases for the most part tended to stay on-prem. But of course, that started to change. If you look at some of the recent numbers from Gartner, they show this graph here kind of shows the split between revenue between cloud database revenue and on-prem database revenue. And as you can see, in 2021, we just about reached a 50-50 split. So increasingly, companies are moving their databases to the cloud, whether that's moving existing databases there or spinning up new databases in the cloud. Having said that, this is revenue, of course, but there's still many more databases that have remained on-prem for a variety of reasons. And in fact, we've actually seen some databases move back from cloud to on-prem. If you haven't read the Andreessen Horowitz article about the $1 trillion paradox, where as much as cloud can save you money in the early stages of your cloud journey, often as workloads grow, it can actually become more expensive, and that's certainly true with databases. And so we're seeing some databases actually be repatriated back on-prem. So the result is we've got databases on-prem, we've got databases in the cloud, databases on the edge, kind of true hybrid multi-cloud situation for databases. Now, in terms of the actual types of database engines people are using, again, traditionally, and again, if you're a DBA, you know this very well, that traditionally relational databases were kind of the be-all, end-all, especially back 10, 15, 20 years ago. Pretty much the database space wasn't really that exciting. You pretty much had Oracle and SQL Server, maybe DB2. And relational databases remain extremely important. They still power the vast majority of applications out there. But in addition to those commercial databases that I just mentioned, we've seen open source databases becoming much more popular. Particularly Postgres. We're seeing quite a few of our customers move to Postgres for new applications, and having most of their enterprise and legacy applications, and I don't use that term in a pejorative way. Legacy is still very important, running often on those more commercial databases. And then, of course, the last several years we've had the explosion of non-relational databases take place. You can see these DB engines ranking here on the right. Just pulled these a few days ago. So these are the latest, and you can see the top 5 is a mix of commercial and open source relational databases, and one of the most popular open source non-relational database. So we've got databases now spread across multiple environments: cloud, on-prem, and the edge, and we've got a much larger variety of databases in use than we've had in the past. Now, if you add to that mix what's going on with application development, trends in application development, you may have heard this. It's a bit of a cliche, but every company is a software company these days. Doesn't matter what industry you're in. You could be an insurance company, a manufacturer, telecom, retail. Doesn't matter what industry you're in. All companies really are turning to software to differentiate themselves from the competition, to build great experiences for their customers. And so as a result of that, we're just seeing the number of applications is skyrocketing. This number here, 750 million new apps expected between 2023 and 2025. That's an IDC forecast. And the point here is just that there's the number of applications is skyrocketing. Won't go into a ton of detail, about the exactly why, but of course you've got things like microservices architecture where you're breaking down bigger applications into smaller pieces. Each microservice might need its own database. Certainly every application needs a database with a few exceptions. And so more applications means more databases. So now we've got databases spread across multiple environments, cloud, on-prem, and edge. We've got a greater variety of databases, commercial and proprietary, open source versus open source, as well as relational and non-relational. And now you just got more databases overall because there's just more applications that need to be supported. So it's become quite a different environment than 10 or 15 years ago in terms of what DBAs are dealing with on a daily basis. They're being asked to do more than ever before. And so this is a challenge, as you can imagine, for all you DBAs out there. I know you're stretched thin. You're being asked to manage more databases than ever before, a larger variety of databases. So that idea of specializing in one database engine is kind of going away. You as a DBA now have to support multiple database engines. You have to know how to run not just Oracle and SQL Server, but Postgres and maybe Mongo, and who knows, perhaps some others as well. And of course, you've got to keep all these databases up and running at all times. So DBA is being asked to do more than ever before. It's a really challenging situation. And so that kind of brings us to, what are those three must-haves for database management? Again, looking at it from the perspective of a DBA and what you're being asked to do on a day-to-day basis. So considering all of those challenges we just talked about, from our perspective, the three must-haves include a single seamless user experience across on-premises, public cloud, and edge. So when you've got databases running in just a single environment, that's fairly straightforward. You've got your databases in your on-prem data center, for example. That's fairly straightforward. But when you're adding one or more public clouds to that mix, now, unless you have a database management platform that provides a single experience across all those environments, you're just adding a lot of complexity. Now you've got different, perhaps, management consoles and operational processes for each of the different environments, and that just adds complexity. So one thing you want to look for is this kind of single seamless user experience across these environments. The second relates to the variety of databases we talked about. So you want to look for a database management platform that allows you to manage multiple database engines without requiring deep expertise in any given engine. So as I said, the days of kind of an Oracle DBA focusing just on Oracle are kind of behind us, and now DBAs are being asked to manage multiple database engines. It's not realistic to ask every DBA to be an expert in every kind of database that's out there. So look for database management platforms that can help you manage and run these databases on a day-to-day basis without having to, become a deep expert on each and every one. And finally, simplified, scalable database operations, including self-service provisioning, automated patching, automated backups, and things like that. So basically, look for a database management platform that helps you automate and standardize a lot of these processes so that you're not doing them manually, which, one, takes up a lot of time, especially, again, when we have more and more databases. Just if you were to just manually have to do all these tasks across just more and more databases, that's going to take up more and more of your time. And it introduces potential human error. We're all human. Mistakes can happen. So you want to look for an automated database management platform that can automate a lot of these tasks. One, to add that kind of operational consistency, so you're patching in a consistent way across your entire fleet. You're performing upgrades in a consistent way across your entire fleet. But also for you as a DBA, it's really important because it gives you, it frees up your time to focus on higher value tasks. That's kind of another topic, which perhaps we'll spend another webinar on. But I think it's important to at least mention that the importance of the DBA is not going away. I think it's the role is shifting from some of these more day-to-day administrative tasks that we talked about at the beginning to higher value tasks such as optimizing performance and database architecture and delivering new features to your developers. And that's really hard to do when you're bogged down with the day-to-day things. Day-to-day tedious, important, but fairly tedious or at least repetitive tasks. So you want to look for something that's automated and really simplifies those operations. So kind of the result of that, well, what kind of platform does that? And that's where we see a lot of interest in database as a service. And what exactly does that mean? So, from our perspective, database as a service refers to software that enables users to set up, operate, and scale databases without having to know or care about the exact implementations of the specific database. And that supports both some of the things we just talked about, making your life as a DBA easier and allowing you to free up time to focus on higher value tasks. And it also supports developers who are looking to, their job is to build apps, write code, and ship code quickly and iterate. And if you can give them that kind of self-service capability where they can quickly spin up databases, that's a benefit for them. I got a little ahead of myself. So what does that mean? What makes a database as a service And one is, again, the automating administrative tasks, reducing that effort, the risk and effort and costs of operating huge fleets of databases, ensuring that consistent and timely operations across your entire fleet. But it also provides that end-user self-service, so developers can access databases themselves without having to, log a ticket, bother you, the DBA, and then have to wait days or weeks because you've got a million other things to do. If they can self-service their database needs, that's going to help them accelerate, software development, get their software products to market faster. Which is also, which is ultimately what we're trying to achieve here is enable innovation for the business. And again, frees up your time to focus on those higher value things that you can worry about things like database architecture, performance optimization. Those are the kind of things that are going to make you more valuable to the organization and help deliver value in the form of innovation. So this is really, at the heart of what makes a database service as a service. Now, if you get specifically into what, our view of the world, Nutanix, we offer Nutanix database service, and it does those things we just talked about, automate management of thousands of databases across hybrid multi-cloud environments. So you can meet those disaster recovery and availability performance requirements, enables that developer self-service, and enables the DBAs to focus on higher value tasks. But kind of what separates Nutanix database service from other database as a service on the market is one, NDB, as we call it, Nutanix database service, supports the most popular database engines across both open source and proprietary. If you think back to that slide earlier about the top databases out there today, the top 5 databases on that list, SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, Postgres, and MongoDB, Nutanix database service supports those 5 databases. It allows you to manage both new and already deployed databases. If you look at some of the cloud provider database as a service offerings, they support new databases. You want to spin up a new database with some of those offerings, you can do that. But existing databases, it's very difficult for those services to take over management of those databases. With Nutanix database service, if you have existing databases running on Nutanix, you can very easily point NDB in their direction, and it can take over management of those databases without a really costly and complex migration. Another important differentiator, NDB allows you to retain full control of database servers. So again, with some of the popular public cloud provider DBaaS offerings, you kind of trade the benefit of automation for control of your database servers, operating systems, versions. In the case of Postgres, which extensions you can use. With NDB, you don't have to have that. You don't have that trade-off. As sometimes put, you get to have the cake and eat it too. Both benefit from the automation, but also retain full control of your database servers. End-to-end support. So with Nutanix database service, we provide support all the way from the hardware up through the database software. So it's kind of one throat to choke, if you will. When it comes to support, And we give you that same experience across public cloud, on-premises, and colo. So again, with a lot of the public cloud providers, they work on their given public cloud, but they don't work on-prem, and they certainly don't work with other public clouds with Nutanix Database Services. It is a truly hybrid multi-cloud database as a service, giving you that single management plane across public and private clouds and colo facilities. And what that boils down to, what are the main benefits we see our customers getting out of Nutanix Database Service? Really, it boils down to 4 things. So simplified, cost-effective database operations, provides that operational consistency and more time for higher value tasks for DBAs, allows you to maintain database standards through customization. That kind of refers to the control versus automation paradigm I just talked about, as well as making databases a more seamless part of software development with that self-service provisioning for developers so they can quickly spin up databases and get on with their work of building great apps. So again, 3 must-haves for database management that we think about: single seamless user experience across on-prem, public cloud, and edge, ability to manage multiple database engines without requiring expertise in any one given engine, and those simplified, scalable database operations, including self-service provisioning and automated patching. With that, I'm going to turn it over to David, who's going to show you NDB in action and how we actually deliver these 3 must-haves. And I'll turn it over to you, David.
Thanks a lot, Jeff. So let's jump right into the demo. This is the dashboard for the Nutanix Database Service, or NDB for short. And from here, you can see all the databases that have been provisioned with NDB. And if you look around the dashboard, you can see the data usage section, where you can see how much space your database is using, as well as any space savings that you're getting with clones. The space savings is because NDB uses the Nutanix Cloud Infrastructure's snapshot service to create thin, space-efficient clones, so you don't need a full copy of a database to be used for testing or development. We'll touch on cloning later. From here, we'll head into the profile section. Profiles are a big part of why NDB can provide a consistent and easy-to-use database as a service experience. Profiles are predefined settings customized to your environment by you. Software profiles, which are seen here, contain both the OS and database engine. We provide several open source database software profiles with NDB. Those are the ones that are marked as OOB on your screen. You can create your own software profiles from database VMs that are already in your environment and running on the Nutanix platform. These would contain any specific settings and customizations that you have done to your database servers. The other profiles are compute, network, database parameters, and Windows domain. We'll go into more details on these in a few minutes. So let's walk through how you can provision a database server with NDB. To do that, I'm going to head over to the database menu. In the overview page, you can see all of the different database engines that have been provisioned by this NDB instance. I'm going to select Sources and then click on the Provision button and select SQL Availability Database. From here, I'm going to set the name of the AG cluster, and I'm going to select the Nutanix clusters I want to provision to. I want to set up this availability group with a replica in my local data center and a replica on the Nutanix Cloud clusters running in AWS. Next, we're going to select a network profile. This profile will contain the VLANs from the Nutanix clusters that I want this availability group to use. And then next, I'm going to select my Windows domain. Windows domain profiles are required with the availability group databases. But if you were provisioning a single instance database, you can still use the domain to join this server the domain, so that you'll be able to log in when provisioning is complete. Once I choose my core and configuration, I can then click Next. On the next screen, I'm going to select a software profile I want to use. I have 2 options that are available on the clusters I selected earlier. I'm going to use SQL 2019. If you hover over the blue icon, you can see information about this profile. You also have the option of choosing which profile version you want to use, but it does default to the most recent version. Next, I'm going to select a compute profile. A compute profile lets you choose the amount of memory, CPU, and cores you want to use with the database VM. I can put my Windows key here also if I needed it, and then set my admin password. Next, I'm going to choose where I want the database VM replicas to live. I want 2 servers in my local data center, so I'm going to change the location of that first server. Then I'm going to add another one to my cluster and set that one to run on my Nutanix Cloud cluster running in AWS. You also can change and edit the name of the VMs if you want to. Towards the bottom, we can change our instance name if we'd like, but all we need to do is select our database parameter profile. I'm going to choose the default profile. Database parameter profiles are where you can set such settings as how much memory you'd like this SQL server to use. Next, we're going to set up a Windows user that is going to be our SQL Server administrator on this server. And once everything else is to our liking, we can click Next. Now we're going to set up the AG options. We can change the AG name if we'd like. And then we're going to choose whether we want our backups to be from our primary, secondary, or any database server. We're then going to select which server we'd like to be the primary server. We're going to set the availability mode for those servers. And also if we want the secondaries to be readable. You would need the secondaries to be readable if you chose the secondary as your choice for backup in the backup preferences. Once we're happy with our selections, we're going to select Next. This is where we're going to set our database name, set our database parameter profile. We also have the option here of building the database from an existing backup. That backup would need to be on a file share that NDB can access. This could be used for migrating databases onto the Nutanix platform, or if you want to test a database on a newer version of server that was originally built on an older one. We're not going to use a backup file today, so we're just going to choose Next. We're now in the Time Machine section. The Time Machine is what schedules when the snapshots of the database will happen. It will also make those snapshots available on the clusters selected here. You can modify which servers the snapshots are replicated to later. Now we're down to the SLA selection area. If we choose an SLA that has continuous backup as an option, I'll then be able to select how often I'd like my logs to be backed up. We're going to select Next and then click on Provision. If we click on the notification at the top of the screen, we can go over to the operations page and see the progress of the provisioning operation. This will also show you all the steps that are taken to provision these database servers. When I first started at Nutanix, one of the first things I did with the NDB environment I got set up was provision a 6-node always-on availability group. It provisioned all 6 of those servers, set up the availability group, and completed all of that in about 45 minutes, which is pretty hard to beat without some sort of automation. Now that the provisioning is in progress, let's switch gears and talk a little about patching. To do that, we're going to hop over to the Profiles page. Patching uses the software profiles. And to start that process for Linux-based databases, you would apply the patches to an existing database server that's already managed by NDB. Once you've tested those patches and are happy with the results, you then would need to create a new patch version of this profile. To do that, we're going to choose the profile, and in the Profile Details page, we're going to choose Create to create the new version. Next, we're going to choose the cluster that the VM we updated is on, and obviously choose that VM. We're then going to give the patch version a name. The name can be anything that you like. I personally tend to use names that let me know what version of the database patch I'm using. We're then going to click Next, and on this screen we can fill out any notes here. These notes will persist when the patch is published. When we're happy with what we filled out here, we're going to click Create. For SQL Server, the process is a little bit different. After you're done testing the cumulative update file from Microsoft, and you're satisfied with the results, you would then go to the Profile Details page like we did before, but instead of selecting the server to be updated, we can just upload the cumulative update file from your computer or a file share, and when it's finished uploading, click Create to finish the process. Once the new software profile versions are published, the process is the same no matter the database engine. To update a database server VM, we would go over to the database server VM page. We would choose one of our database server VMs that were published with that profile. And from its details page, we can see in the upper right that it showed as having an update required because the software profile version that it was provisioned with has been depreciated. To start the patch process for the server, we're going to click on Update. If there were multiple updates, we can choose which one to apply. We also have the choice of doing the update now or later. When later is selected, you have the option of choosing the time and date you would want the patch to run. This is a great option if you need to fit this into a change control window. When you've decided when you want to patch the server, you would provide the server name to confirm that you want to start the patching process and click Update. If this was a single instance DB, the DB would go down during patching. However, this was a clustered or high availability database, and DB would keep the database available during patching. We can then click on the banner at the top to go to the operations page to see that the patch is running. So while that's running, let's take a quick look at cloning. We need to create a new clone of one of our databases. To do that, we're going to head over to the database menu and then choose Sources. We're going to click on this Oracle CRM database. And from the details page, we're going to scroll down and click on the Time Machine name to take us into this database's Time Machine. Now we're going to choose Actions and Create Single Instance Clone. Here you can see the dates that we have backups available to create clones from. We can also choose which cluster we'd like to create the clone, and you can see the calendar change on the different clusters to reflect which dates have backups that we can create clones from. We're going to choose the prod Tomahawk server and take the most recent clone, which it does default to, and then click Next. We can change the database server VM name and set a system password. Then we'll set the compute profile and the network profile and provide a key for our SSH pass-through if we're logging in via SSH. On the next page, we could set our database server name. We'll need to set a sys and system password, and then pick the database parameter profile we want to use. The next options are some of my favorite features inside of NDB. You can choose the Schedule Data Refresh to schedule a refresh of the clone from the source DB. This is an awesome feature that can save a lot of time if you have a QA or a development database that must be updated regularly. And it does not require any intervention from the DBA to refresh that database from the source. You also can set a removal schedule. So if you know the database is needed for only a specific amount of time, you could then choose that setting. So if someone asked me to create a database for testing a patch or a new feature, but maybe they only needed it for 2 weeks, I could set the time here to 14 days, and the database would be removed from the server and NDB, with again not needing any intervention from the DBA. From here, we're going to click Next. On this screen in the lower left, you can see a button called the API Equivalent button. This button has been on many of the other workflows that we've done today, and this is an awesome feature that can save you time if you want to automate tasks using NDB. When you click on the API Equivalent button, it opens a window. On the left, you can see the JSON data, which you can use with our Nutanix automation tool. And on the right, you can choose a language that you might like to use, whether that's Python, PowerShell, Go, and you can create scripts that can be used with many of the popular automation tools like Ansible, Puppet, or Chef. This is an easy way to create a repeatable process and integrate with other automation tools without needing to know a lot about scripting yourself. NDB has a robust API system, and it can function as a centralized automation hub for the databases in your environment. Once we're done, we're going to choose Close and click Clone to start the process. Clones can be created quickly because they're utilizing the Nutanix Cloud Infrastructure's native snapshots. These snapshots are thin and space efficient, so if you have a 10 terabyte database, you're not going to need a 10 terabyte clone. So that allows it to create it quickly and not use up a lot of space. Let's take a quick look at how you can refresh a clone on demand. I'm going to head over to the database menu from the drop-down, and then I'm going to select Clones. From the list of clones, I'm going to click on one of the database clones I'd like to refresh. In the Clone Details page, you can see that this clone is only using 50 gigabytes of space, but the source database is over 2 terabytes. To refresh the clone from the source DB, I would click on Refresh at the top of the screen. I'm then going to select a date that has a snapshot that I can refresh from. Once I've chosen that date, I'm then going to need to select a snapshot on that date. Once all that is set up and I click Refresh, the database will start refreshing from the source DB. So that's some of the many ways that NDB can streamline your database operations.
All right. Well, thank you so much, David. And just to kind of reiterate and review what we've learned today, 3 must-haves for database management. You're looking for a single, seamless user experience across your on-prem, public cloud, and edge locations and database deployments. The ability to manage multiple database engines without requiring that expertise in any one given engine. And simplified, scalable database operations, enabling things such as self-service provisioning, automated patching, and some of the other great features that David just reviewed. And with that, I do encourage everybody to take Nutanix Database Service for a test drive. Nutanix.com/test-ndb, or just nutanix.com/ndb. You can get to the test drive through that page as well, or you can scan the QR code on your screen now, and you can see how NDB works for yourself. And love to hear from you afterwards and see how we can help you manage your database environments and enable some innovation. Thanks.
Jeff and David, really great presentation. I love the extended demo. That's one of those like seeing is believing kind of things. It's hard to imagine what this might look like. And so thank you to David for that really cool demo. And thank you to Jeff for the great presentation. I encourage everyone to check out the QR code right there on the screen. Scan it with your phone or mobile device, or if you don't have that handy, just go to Nutanix.com/NDB or test-NDB, because I'm going to move on now to the poll question on the screen that we do after each of the sessions on the summit. The poll question on the screen is, what additional information would you like about the Nutanix solution? And we want to get your feedback on this poll, and I'll leave this up while we take your questions. So if you have a question, now's the time to get it in. We've got lots of great questions that have come in already. Thank you for those. I'll go ahead and start with this one from Kathy, who's asking if you have any suggestions for a DBA in a smaller company for juggling many different types of database or data and databases on a budget. Is this something that could help out Kathy?
Yeah, it absolutely could, I think. We do talk about having, hundreds of thousands of databases, but I think NDB can also be very beneficial to smaller organizations if you think less about the sheer number of databases, but you think more about the ratio of DBAs to databases. So, if you've got a very small team of DBAs, you're just maybe a single person or just one or two, and even, 20, 30 databases can be a lot for a small team. So, yeah, it absolutely can be valuable for some of those smaller organizations. And again, would encourage you to take a test drive and reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you about how we can help.
Excellent. Let's see, Paul's asking, can Nutanix's database management service boost testing and development? If so, by what degree or how might this help those who do testing and development?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can talk to it on a kind of a bit of a higher level, and then let David dig into some of the details specifically around cloning and how that can help with test dev environments. But generally speaking, yes. If you think about some of the challenges developers have when it comes to databases, in my experience, kind of as we've seen these new modern development practices emerge, agile development, these iterative approaches, where developers are building, small features, discrete features in short sprints and shipping code frequently. We've seen that kind of emerge, and organizations of all types are adopting those modern practices, but the database didn't really keep up. Traditionally, if you wanted a database as a developer, you still had to kind of log a ticket, wait for the DBA to provision the hardware, configure the database, and eventually get it out to you, and that could take days or weeks, and that doesn't really align with kind of this fast software development that we're seeing today. And so with NDB, DBAs can provide developers with a self-service capability where they can, with just a few clicks or commands, in a matter of minutes or hours, provision the database to support, their application development work. So if they've got a new feature they want to test out, they're not waiting weeks to get a database before they can move it into production, move it to test it and then eventually move it into production. David, I don't know if you want to talk about anything more specific in terms of some of the features that help enable this.
Yeah, I mean, also if he means by boosting, it's saying, hey, I've got this database that was deployed for development, and now it needs to be a production database. There is kind of a process we have where you could take a clone, a database that was created, or a database server that's created from a clone, and switch it to, quote, not being part of that clone, being its own database. As of now, it would still keep the same memory size and everything that you'd set. You can change that after the fact, and it's not going to, Era is not going to say anything about it. Or, sorry, if I got to throw $1 in the thing, I called it Era again. NDB is not going to say anything, but we are adding some scaling features. Right now, we actually do have the ability to scale this size. So if you took something from development and then you're rolling it in production and you're like, oh yeah, we're going to need more disk space, you can absolutely scale up those disk sizes as part of that. And my assumption is there's going to be more features related to scaling your database sizes coming into NDB.
Very nice. Yeah, that sounds like that could help a lot of companies out there. This is an interesting question from John, who wants to know, how do you all account for memory and storage requirements when it comes to spinning up new instances? Is that configurable so that resources are not overtaxed? How does that work? I know traditionally with databases, you have to do, kind of sizing and tuning processes. How would that work with this?
Yeah, David, I'll turn that one over to you.
Okay. Yeah, so we have the profiles, which I mentioned before, which is where you can set your memory requirements, and you can also set your disk size when you're provisioning servers. If you're doing a clone, it basically doesn't matter because it's a thin clone as far as storage goes, but clones do let you set your memory and CPU sizes. So, I need to make a copy of my production database. Most of the time, production, dev test databases don't always get all that memory, all of that storage. So, it kind of does account that, especially, with being able to support running databases on our cloud, NC2 Nutanix cloud clusters and AWS and soon to be Azure. That's certainly going to be consuming. So you can create multiple compute profiles basically to your heart's content that contain all kinds of different configurations for memory, CPU and cores, and then your storage would be more controlled by, thin clones in that case. The whole idea is, if you have a 10 terabyte production database, your clone isn't going to take up 10 terabytes while you're doing testing.
Right. Very
and
nice.
for new
That's
instances,
cool.
you would just set that off the fly.
Okay. Let's see. This question from Peter. He said, I may have missed this. Are the self-provisioned databases appropriate for production or only for lower environments?
Oh,
I would. Sorry. Go ahead, David.
I was going to say they're basically used for any environment. How you would set it up for size and scaling.
Okay.
NDB is fully production happy and ready.
Yeah. Nice. And then this one's a good one here. They say, when you state that you have a seamless user experience with Nutanix Database Service, can you elaborate a little bit more on what you mean by that?
Sure. So if you're familiar with Nutanix, kind of traditionally, we come from the heritage of our Hyperconverged infrastructure software that allows you to have this single seamless management experience for your infrastructure, and we're bringing that to the database. So it provides a single management plane where you can manage all your databases regardless of engine and regardless of whether it's running on-prem or in the cloud. So the idea being you don't have to go to multiple environments or multiple consoles to manage databases across different environments. We're going to give you that single seamless user experience. So whether you're running SQL Server on-prem or you're running it on AWS, the management will be same. The experience through NDB will be the same. That's kind of what we're talking about there.
Also, the other thing I'd say about that too, Jeff, is that the seamless part is, in the video I showed provisioning a SQL always-on availability group. If you were doing an Oracle RAC cluster or a PostgreSQL cluster or even a MongoDB cluster, the process is going to feel very similar. Obviously, there'll be specific options related to that database engine, but you basically end up with where do I want my replicas to live? What options do I want to have for backing up in some cases? Which ones do I want to be the primary? Which ones do I want to be, synchronized or asynchronous or, just synchronized? So even if you're not a Postgres person, you could deploy with NDB. If you know how to deploy a SQL server, you could probably deploy a PostgreSQL cluster using NDB without really even having any knowledge.
That's a great point, and that's what we talked about earlier, not needing to be necessarily a deep expert in any given database engine, because with the number of database engines different organizations are using today, it's not really realistic to expect every DBA to be expert in every engine. So NDB allows you that experience that David just described, so you can deploy multiple database engines, manage multiple database engines without being a deep expert in any given one.
Excellent. And this is a good one here. What are some of the higher value tasks that you mentioned that DBAs can spend their time and focus on when database as a service is able to automate the more mundane daily tasks?
Sure. I can give you some examples. I'd love to hear David as well, who is kind of a hands-on DBA, can definitely talk about this. But generally, we're talking about things that are going to provide value to the business and help you differentiate. So that could be things like optimizing for performance. So we all know that when we're using apps on our phone or on the web, whatever context, performance is critical. And a lot of times when you're using an application and performance is slow, oftentimes that's because the database isn't performing well. So if you can spend more time optimizing your database environment for performance and less time on some of those mundane day-to-day tasks, that's going to provide value ultimately to customers, to front-end users who have no idea what's going on in the background, but is going to provide a better experience for them. Similarly, kind of optimize your architecture to be more cost-effective, to be more efficient. Those kinds of things help the bottom line and are of value to the business. And again, can help differentiate from the competition. So at a high level, those are some of the things that you can start thinking about spending more time on, and less on kind of the day-to-day administrative tasks.
Smart.
Yeah, I mean, that pretty much covers it, Jeff. I agree. And one of the things, like, it can let you have more time to do things. One of my favorite things used to be was to look at stored procedures that were taking too much, they were, what do they call them, high-cost stored procedure. It's taking so long to run the stored procedure, it's causing performance problems. So this speaks right into your performance options. So I go in there and figure out why. Did it need a different index routing? Was there a primary key mess up? If there was something somewhere that I could adjust or add or, just diagnose, I with stuff I really enjoyed. Honestly, at times I just didn't get time to do that because I'm either patching, creating test databases, creating test databases.
Yeah, it sounds like this could help out a lot of DBAs out there just to be more efficient, to focus on the business, which is where they should be spending their time and where they can provide the most value. So sounds like a great solution for a lot of companies out there. I'm going to bring back up the QR code here. I encourage everyone to check this out. If folks go here, in fact, you can actually click on those. Those are hyperlinks on the screen. If you mouse over those where it says Nutanix.com/NDB. If folks go here, let's see, I see this brings up a new tab or web page. They can test drive Nutanix database service. Get started by simply entering your work email there and test this out or try it out in your Chrome browser. So it sounds like a great test drive opportunity for folks out there. Jeff and David, it's been great having you on. I learned so much. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
And thank you to our audience out there for all the excellent questions as well. Thank you, of course, to all the expert presenters on the event today. Thank you to our audience. It's now my pleasure to hand it back to Jess to wrap up today's event.
All right. Well, thanks to the Nutanix crew and to David for such an awesome presentation and a great discussion. That was just a perfect way to wrap up an already exciting day on the summit here. And there is one more thing, as David mentioned, that we need to get to today, and that is a grand prize giveaway. So we're going to wrap up the day with another one of those $300 Amazon gift cards, and then we're going to give away, okay, I'm going to give you a sneak peek. Watch the screen here. Oh, yeah, that's right. We're going to give away 3 of those Millennium Falcon Lego sets. Well, I'm very excited about that. Okay, so let's start with a $300 Amazon gift card. This is going to Bob Nemeth of Ohio. Bob Nemeth of Ohio, you have won a $300 Amazon gift card. And then let's bring it home with our last 3 winners of a grand prize. This one is a Millennium Falcon Lego set. I'm going to remind you again that you do need to be here present at the webinar in order to win any of the prizes today. So for you lucky 3 folks, if you're here, this is going to go to Eric Payne of Ohio, Trey Jones of Texas, and Brian Dominic of Illinois. You have all won Lego Millennium Falcons. Very exciting. I am trying very hard not to sing the Star Wars theme song, but it is 100% in my head right now. So I hope you're singing along with me at home. Congratulations to Bob on your gift card and to Eric, Trey, and Brian on their Millennium Falcons. Now, I was asked to read out the entire prize list from today, so somebody out there really wants me to lose my voice, but I'm going to give it a shot here. Okay, ready? So first off, a gift card, an Amazon gift card going to Terry Cohn of Texas. Then an Apple Max headphones going to Bronson Gherkin of Nebraska, Vinod Kumar of North Carolina, and Todd Harrison of Wisconsin. Then we had an Amazon gift card going to Scott Holbrook of Michigan, also going to Cindy Slack of Ohio. Then we gave away 3 Nintendo Switches going to Ramsey Okuma of Nevada, Nick Endvik of Wisconsin, and Jamie Creek of Kansas. Then an Amazon gift card going to Eric Salentine of Wisconsin, also going to Jane L. Pervez of Texas, and then a Samsung S22 phone going to Patrick Fleggett of North Carolina, also Mike Powers of Illinois, Erica Christensen of Missouri, a Amazon gift card going to Julia Schappa of Massachusetts, and then also Bob Nemeth of Ohio. And then our last 3 winners, Eric Payne of Ohio, Trey Jones of Texas, and Brian Dominic of Illinois. Woo, that was quite the list. Deep breaths. Congratulations to all our winners. We will be in touch about claiming your prize after we wrap up the summit today. Don't forget, there's still that chance because we will be reviewing the questions asked in each of our sessions here, even if we didn't get to your question in the live Q&A. So we will be following up with those best questions asked, folks, as well. Now, before you head out, make sure to check out the Actual Tech Media ransomware guide in the Handouts tab. You can find everything that you need to know about ransomware, how to understand, how to prevent, and how to recover. So visit ransomware.org for more information there. And if you're on the webinar today and you would like to chat with us about presenting on a future summit, we would love that. Come hang out with David and I. Look at how much fun we're having here today. So reach out to us via email at connect@actualtechmedia.com, and hey, let's have a conversation. Let's hang out on a future summit. And with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank all of our speakers today from Zerto, Couchbase, Rubric, Duo Security, Okta, OutSystems, and Nutanix for making this summit possible. A very special thank you to all of you for attending and asking some really great questions today. I had so much fun with you all talking about how we can supercharge your IT environments. I hope that you're all feeling pumped up and just ready to dig in and do some research on your own. So don't forget, before you go, to check out the handout section of your webinar console and make sure you get all those additional resources. And best of all, keep having these conversations. Keep asking those questions. The world of IT is constantly changing. It's evolving, which means that there's always something more to learn, something new to explore. And we are so happy that we get to be a part of that journey with you all. Speaking of which, before you take off today, be sure to mark your calendars. Come back and join us again on Wednesday, October 12th for an awesome megacast. We're going to be talking about fixing your broken data protection, DRAS, and disaster recovery. That's at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Wednesday, October the 12th. So come be a part of that exciting and incredibly important conversation with us. Well, I hope that we get to see you all again soon. I know David and I had an absolute blast with you all today. And until next time, have an absolutely beautiful rest of your day.